Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi out here is a reaction to game two of the first round against Cleveland Cavaliers with the Raptors. And this is what I have to say. The Raptors are learning a tough lesson for the whole entire year right now. They should have been practicing a certain way of playing this whole entire year to be able to be ready for the playoffs. And they didn't really because they were uh, making poor mistakes and doing a lot of this stuff during the year. And they didn't tighten up and practice this. And now they're learning the lesson that for the whole entire 82 game schedule, you have to play a certain way to practice the good habits so that when you get to the playoffs, you are solid and you play right. This is a lesson that young nucleuses have to learn sometimes. Not every one of them, but sometimes the young team needs to learn that, like, look, the habits you built through the whole 82 game season are going to be what you do in the playoffs. And in some ways, the way we're playing against Cleveland is kind of some of the things that we were doing all year that we should have been cleaning up the whole time. And that's why that whole entire year, you have to dedicate yourself to be playing a high level basketball kind of level. This is part of the reason why we didn't beat the best teams in the league because they do this. They play a very ethical, clean style of basketball that is practicing good habits that lend themselves to success in the postseason. So, regardless of what happens for the rest of the series, whether they get a win or win the series or anything like that, this is what the message is, Scotty Barnes and Raptors, is that what you guys practice all year long, your habits and the way you react and the way you do things, turn the ball over, shoot free throws, everything is your habits that you build. And then in the playoffs, in some ways, you have to just play who you are. And if you played ethical basketball for most of the 82, you should look pretty good. But unfortunately, you guys didn't play tightened up. And that's in some ways expected of a young crew, a young age group, that they're not going to understand that really you need to be doing this, this, and this the whole entire season to really ingrain it and really make it a part of your DNA and who you are. But if you're going to be this and this at different times during the season, well, this stuff will rear its ugly head at the worst possible time. And that's now when you're really trying to win. That game yesterday was completely winnable, completely winnable. And it didn't necessitate a ref hit job, James Capers Jr. and Kevin Cutler. You guys didn't have to do all that mess in the fourth quarter. You really didn't. We were going to shoot ourselves in the foot and lose the game without you doing a ref hit job on top of it, because you guys did do a ref hit job on top of it. Every single call you could make against the Raptors, you figured out a way to do it, whether it was a touch foul on us or it was like, the people on their side pushing people on the floor and you not even blinking an eye or whistle or anything. Oh, we'll get you on the sidelines. We'll get you for a little extra step, Scotty. We'll get you for this and this. We'll be ticky-tack with you. And meanwhile, we'll give a whole bunch of license to James Harden and Donovan Mitchell and let them do whatever because they're Hall of Famers, superstars, and they can get away with push-offs and doing a whole bunch of stuff that we can't get away with. Yeah, it was very biased. I'm disappointed in James Capers because in some ways he reverted back to being a Raptor hater and absolutely hurting our team with calls. And Kevin Cutler's a jerk too. So, but it wasn't even necessary. The refs didn't even need to do that. That's the sad thing, that we probably were going to shoot ourselves in the foot and not get there to the right place anyway. So the ref hit job was unnecessary, but you showed it. You showed your true colors, refs. You showed your bullshit. In some ways, this was a very biased game for the home team for sure with the referees. But that's not what lost us the game. They didn't have to do it. We would have lost the game. They didn't have to do any of those really super biased calls, but that was insurance in some ways also to make sure that the outcome went to Cleveland. Yeah. But, they had 3 stars show up. They had Donovan, they had James, they had Evan. Those 3 guys got 20 plus, and they did superstar stuff, each of them. Two of them outscored all of our team. And what have I been saying this whole time? To win this series, you have to beat them, outscore them. You got to be the best player on the court, Brandon or Scotty or RJ. Well, we had two of our superstars show up, and that was Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. And then we had our bench outplay the Cleveland Cavaliers also. That's not enough to beat them if three of their superstars are elite and we have two of our superstars that are okay. You know, they're not super elite. And then one of our guys just completely shits the bed and disappears. Now, I want to go easy on Brandon today because I know he's feeling it right now. I know he's getting the brunt of all of everything for last night. And in some ways, that's warranted. But also in some ways, it isn't totally. In the first half, Brandon was trying to do things other than score to help us win in different ways. But he absolutely was a liability last night. And this isn't the first time this has happened. This game mirrored the New Orleans game when he returned home for his rah, I'm back, I feel good to be in New Orleans kind of game, where he was absolutely a liability on the court instead of a plus, a bonus. And that's why, in some ways, Darko, you're going to have to understand there is a very, very bad version of Ingram that can be on the court that cannot be played if he's in that mode. And I'm going to say how you figure out what it is, whether you know you have that Ingram out there or not. Well, is he turning the ball over more often than he's making shots? Is he not even making an effort to go after a loose ball? And Kevin Cutler's punishing him for being a lazy ass and saying, no, it's out of bounds on you. It's their ball. You know, it's shit like that. See, Brandon, you don't get it. You just don't fucking get it. There's two things you're doing wrong right now, and you don't get it. You got to put effort in. You can't just let the ball roll out like that. Kevin Cutler's like, wow, you look lazy as fuck. Yeah, it's Cleveland ball. That's a classic NBA call. That if you're not going to put any effort into getting the ball and you're just going to stand there and watch it go out of bounds, you can't play like it's preseason. You can't play like it's early regular season. You got to play like it's the playoffs. And that ball is sacred. And, you know, stepping out of bounds while you are dribbling the ball off your foot while you're dribbling up the court, that kind of shit, you know, that's totally unnecessary too. You got to tighten up, man. And the thing that's really worrying to me is, you know, we've had superstars on our team that could take over and make shots. People like Vince Carter, people like Kawhi Leonard. When you have that ball on offense, do you have an idea where your spot is? Do you have an idea of pre-visualizing what you want to do with the ball? Forget about what the defense wants to make you do. Think about what Kobe used to do. Kobe had an idea. I'm going to go to this spot and I'm going to elevate and I'm going to shoot this shot right here. Do you have even a fucking idea about what you're planning to do on offense at this point? Or are you just improvising and whirling around and making yourself real easy to get picked off for a turnover? Because half the time it looked like you don't even fucking know what you want to do. Like, that's no good. Kawhi Leonard always knew what spot and what he was going to do, and he went and did it. Vince Carter, even as a young player, a player that hadn't played anywhere near the amount of years you played in the NBA, he somehow knew, I got to go to get this spot and elevate and shoot, and I can help the Raptors win in like his first 3 years in the league. I don't get this, Brandon. Like, in some ways, your fool's goal. I'm finding out your fool's goal. And in some ways, I'm wondering if the Pelicans ruined your ass. Seriously. Because seriously, you could be in an environment that's just not competitive and just kind of lackadaisical and half-assed, and it just becomes your DNA too. Like, can you get past your era in the Pelicans and the mindset of when you were in New Orleans and the loser-ass shit that's come from down there to come up here and play for the Raptors and play in the right level for the Raptors in the way that we play? Can you get past your time in New Orleans and the mindset, the bad stuff built up, being next to Zion Williamson and all that bullshit down there? I don't know if you can. You may be ruined for your NBA career because you were in New Orleans for too long. Bad habits stink in, and you just can't shake them. You can't get back to that level of compete that's necessary. Do you know the level you have to elevate to, Brandon? Do you understand how to do it? I would like to think you do. You've been in the league for 10 years. You've been around good players. You've seen good players play against you. You've done good in games yourself. But if this is where you're at, building up your career to this point, to this level of performance, and when it really matters right now. These are the most meaningful games you played in 10 years, Brandon Ingram. And this is what you're going to come in and do in these kind of games. That's sad, man. It's like, what was the whole fucking point then? From the very beginning, when your dad was managing the gym and you'd spend so much time at that gym in North Carolina, what was the whole fucking point? If you're going to get to this point in your life where you're at this point and you're going to shit the bed and play like ass and honestly look like you don't care, and look like you don't want to give a shit about giving effort, and you're just fool's gold at this point. I'm calling out other people around the league as fool's gold. Joel Embiid's a fool's gold because he'll get hurt and he won't be able to play in the playoffs. Yeah, that's true. James Harden's fool's gold because he's going to disappear before the end of the playoffs for the Cavs fans, and they're going to lose at some point because of that. Yeah, that's probably true, even though they're doing so well against us right now. But, Brandon, I didn't want to believe that you're fool's gold, that you're broken by your experience in the NBA, and that you just, you know what it is? It's the sliding scale of DeRozan code. I'm not going to deny that you're a gym rat. I'm not going to deny that you're somebody who loves to shoot a lot of basketball and put in a lot of hours in the gym. I know that's true. But I may deny you certain levels of DeRozan code as far as, you know, understanding when you need to elevate things and go to another level, or just having a certain drive or a Mamba mentality to be better than other people. That's obvious that you don't have this. Otherwise, you would be going toe-to-toe with Donovan Mitchell and kicking his ass as far as outscoring him. That's the thing. That's what Mamba mentality was. Kobe Bryant wasn't just out there to like run around and look cool. I'm in the NBA and I date a girl named Glorilla. No, he was out there to fucking win. And he was out there to beat his counterpart who's on the other side on the lineup. And that's what I'm saying, bro. What is this? You know, Paul Pierce, I don't agree with him most of the time. I think Paul Pierce is a jackass. But he came at you the other day and he was exactly right. You know, they watched your clip, an interview with the green room with Harrison and Danny Green and Tony Allen and Paul Pierce. And they broke down your interview after game one, where you kind of complained about being used as a screener and not getting the ball to shoot it up. Paul Pierce called bullshit on you. He said, look, Brandon, you're the superstar. You don't need to fucking get people to help you. You need to go do it your damn self. That's what Paul Pierce said himself. He said, look, you know, and Tony Allen added this too. You break plays. If the coach ain't calling it this way or this way, you're a superstar. You go break the plays and you go make the shots. That's what superstars have done all through the years. Michael Jordan disregard Phil Jackson and go ahead and go make the baskets. And Phil Jackson didn't care after that because he was successful and he shut up. You know, you can't complain, oh, they're not getting me the ball, I'm not getting enough shots, and then we give you all the shots and you miss them all. I know you admitted this after the game. Yeah, it looks bad. I said all that stuff after the game, and then I get the shots, and then I miss them. Yeah, it is bad. Sure, and there were a couple of shots in the first half that were very good shots that just didn't fall. I get that. But that's the thing, Brandon. You really fucking Mamba mentality in your Kobe. You are making those shots. You're not fucking rimming them out. You're not doing a reverse layup under the basket and it's not going in. You're fucking making those shots. And this is the execution of excellence, the excellence of execution I was talking about by Bret Hart. That's that mentality, is the excellence of execution. That's a Kawhi Leonard money. You know he's making it when he gets to his spot in the mid-range because he dribbled there forcefully. He knew exactly what he's doing and nobody could stop him. This is what you're lacking. You can do this in regular season games sometimes, I guess, when it's easy. But when it's hard, you can't do it. When it's hard and the defense is absolutely coming at you and grabbing you and making it physical, you can't do it, apparently. I thought you were better than this, Brandon. I thought that you could arise above the challenges and the adversity of the situations because you're like that. But I got to wonder, how much DeRozan code do you really have in you? Maybe you work out a lot. Maybe you do all that stuff. Maybe you are a very high-level basketball player, but you do not have Mamba mentality. I'm going to say that right now. And in some ways, the training of DeRozan code is there, but is the level of wanting to be better and rising to the occasion every single year, is that there? I don't know. I don't know. And in some ways, it's got me questioning everything. At least there's a nice development in Raptors Nation of this. People are pivoting from going after RJ and saying they'd rather trade Brandon this summer now. And some people, because of what they're seeing from Barrett right now, are saying, no, we can't get rid of Barrett, man. He's putting on for his city, his country, and he's playing all out. And he is winning basketball for us. Oh, yeah. That's what I've been trying to say to people. It's not always about stats and analytics. It's not always about contracts and whether they look like they're too big or not. It's about intangibles. It's about heart. It's about how much can you depend on this guy to do everything possible that he can with his energy and his know-how to try and help you win no matter what. That's RJ Barrett right there. And you can see it in both our Canadian guys when they're out there. AJ Lawson's not messing around either. He's out there playing his ass off. And it's a little different than some of the other guys on the team. The energy coming from AJ and RJ. You can admit that, right? I don't know. In some ways, I want to give Brandon the benefit of the doubt. And, this is Cleveland holding serve, winning their 2 games at home. And, well, we've got to win our games at home ourselves. And the series will continue on the way that, it usually playoffs do. Home team wins, home team wins, home team wins, home team wins. We'll see. They got to protect the North, and they got to make sure they win on Thursday for sure. Yeah, these 2 games were kind of like fuck around, see where y'all are at, and see what you can do. This was definitely a winnable game last night, but y'all flubbed it, and you didn't have to. And it was unnecessary turnovers and dumb shit that should have been happening in the first half of the season, should have been cleaned up in the middle of the season, and should have been perfected at the end of the season so that it wouldn't be happening in the playoffs. That's the kind of shit that we're talking about here. As far as with the turnovers and the poor play, and honestly, even though y'all had better effort and you did play better defense, you still aren't getting after the loose balls and the 50-50 stuff the correct way still. You can bobble balls and mess up or be kind of, there's the ball. Go get it. Don't just stand there and look at it. Run it down. Be like a dog in the yard chasing a Kong. It's like, oh, you threw the ball. My owner threw the ball. Run after that ball just like a dog would chase that ball down to retrieve it to the owner and give it back. You have to have that kind of zeroing in and hustle. You guys are staying around too much. And I see the Cavs running and get the ball before you. Really good boxing out. Really good job on the boards. Y'all out rebounded them last night. That wasn't enough to beat them. That's crazy. We beat them in points to the paint and rebounds, and we didn't beat them, y'all. Why did that happen, Raptors? Because y'all turned the ball over too much, and we had a dud player for our number 1 option who absolutely killed momentum, absolutely messed us up at times, just like he did in New Orleans. This was just like the New Orleans game in New Orleans, where Brandon Ingram was absolutely a negative asset who dragged us down and actually was part of the cause for why we lost. See, that's the thing. I was talking about this. You can do this to high usage priority scorers like Mitchell and Ingram and Harden. You can make them absolutely a liability to their team if you do it right. And the Cavs are doing it right with how they're guarding Brandon and making him absolutely a negative asset, a negative add-on to our team effort. Because, man, there's nothing like stupid ass unforced turnover to kill momentum and esteem and how the team's feeling and the pride and how they're trying to do things. And all of a sudden, yeah, that's stupid, man. What the fuck is that? That's maybe a turnover that you can have in the preseason and in maybe in the beginning of the year before Christmas, but don't fucking do it now in April. There's a cat in my yard. I don't often see a cat in my yard. There's a cat. Kitty cat. But yeah, I mean, it's just this is the long-term lesson for this young group is the whole year, the whole 82 is you honing your craft and polishing your job, Jamal Shed, so that you're not making the dumb turnovers at the end of the year in the playoffs. That's the lesson, Shed, is that you all year, you got to practice and really, really get good so that you're not making the knuckleheaded turnovers. And when you get the postseason, if you've done enough ingraining of it in your head, you'll just autopilot not do the dumb shit. It's just like Jacoby with his 3-point shot. He shot it so much that he's mindless about it. It's autopilot. And it doesn't even matter that the stakes are higher, the lights are brighter, and the crowd is louder. Jacoby Walters hitting his three because he did it in a certain way that it's ingrained in him, that it's programmed in, hardwired in. And that's the thing, Shed. You guys got to do this too. Scotty, same thing. You have a lot of work to do, Scott, to be building yourself up all year long to understand what it takes at the playoff level to be the best you can be. This is the awakening. This is the discovery of it. A young team needs to come here and hit this their head on the ceiling and understand this is what it takes to clean up your game. You got to play ethical basketball. You can't make a lot of mistakes, especially if you're a team that doesn't shoot well overall. You got to play perfect basketball, and you got to play good defense, and you got to find ways to beat them. Honestly, we had them again. That game was ripe for the picking. Easy pickings. We could have won this game. If it was regular season, we might have won it. But it's playoffs. It's intense. The referees in some ways are safeguarding. And the Cavs are playing at a playoff level more than we are. And that's the difference right there. That's the difference right there. Harden and Mitchell are a lot more bonded than I thought. And they really are playing off each other very well. And they have a lot of good communication. In fact, they talked about it in their press afterwards. They sat together in the press room and did their interview together. And even in the game, you can see James and Donovan talking to each other and sharing their vast knowledge of playing the NBA and playing at a certain level and working with each other as partners. And it's actually working really well. In some ways, I consider maybe that's a place where people will step on each other's toes. Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, but no, it's fitting really well. And I got to give some credit to the ego of James Harden as far as he understands more now at this point in his career how to be a team player more than ever. And that's partly from the last few stops in his career, especially Philadelphia. But yeah, I have to be impressed with that. And we made jokes about Dean Wade and his defense, but man, Dean Wade is shutting down Brandon Ingram, and that's messed up. That shouldn't be like that. Brandon Ingram, you getting shut down by Dean Wade. Do you have any fucking pride? Seriously. Like, what the fuck, man? In some ways, that's what you should be getting pissed off about. Don't get pissed off about me criticizing you. You should be feeling it for yourself and your own pride and saying, man, you're getting punked, man. You're getting punked by the defense of the Cavs. That is like, seriously, come on now. It's not like it's the most vaunted defense. Sure, you can go with Allen and Mobley. But other than that, it's not like they're plus defenders all around in the rest of the lineup. So what's the problem here, Brandon? What is the problem here? In some ways, like I said, there were times where in the game where you had free room and you could have gone around and done stuff, but you weren't organized in your own head to even have a plan for what you were going to fucking do. I can tell because you're improvising and you're not doing anything with a purpose, an intent. You should know what you're going to fucking do, just like Kawhi and just like Kobe Bryant. You should know this is what I intend to do. Oh, this guy's coming at me. All right, this is how I beat him. I remember this. And, this guy's doing this. Okay, this means I'll do this and go here. And boom, I'll get this shot here. Brandon, if you're so fucking good at offense, you should be able to go and score in any which way, on any which way, in any spot on the court. And you need to maybe, figure that out and understand, like, all right, if I get to my spot, I'll elevate and I'll get my shot and I'll make it. Because sometimes it looked like you didn't know what the fuck you were supposed to do. We can't have this shit. This is the playoffs, y'all. Y'all can't be in regular season mode. And regular season mode is a mix of excellence and shitty play. Y'all need to be playing at a high level, and y'all need to be getting after it. Once again, I'm not happy with, you guys said you did better with the effort, and Coach Darko was happy in the post game with the effort. He said, yeah, they worked a lot harder and they had a lot more energy, but I still wasn't happy enough. I wasn't. Because I saw the cracks in the little areas where you didn't go all out, like Brandon not trying to chase that ball down and Kevin Cutler saying, well, it's Cavs ball because you're lazy ass. Those moments were there. There were times where I saw guys not going all out to get the ball. And you have to. A good test for this is watch what Sandro's doing. Is Sandro running like crazy after he get the ball or running like crazy to drive the ball in the hoop? Yeah, he's a good role model for this. If you see the energy of Sandro or maybe even Jacoby sometimes when he's hitting the floor and getting after it to get the ball, yeah, that's the role model right there. That's the energy y'all need to have, all of you, all together as a group. And if you're not doing that, if you're lazy in this way or lazy in that way, it's going to show in this environment at this level. It's going to show. It's going to be a stark contrast because that's the difference between a veteran playoff team and a team that hasn't been there yet is they know what it takes, and y'all are learning what it takes now, and that's why y'all will probably fail and lose this series. Is because you don't understand what it takes in the playoffs, just how high level of excellence. You guys can talk about it all year. We've been working on it. Oh, we've done this, we've done that. We win some games, we lose some games. You go through the season, you get 46 wins. Y'all could have gotten 50 wins this year if y'all had played the style that it takes in the playoffs during the regular season. You lost games during the regular season because of not being completely the top level professional level for playoff basketball in the regular season. And the best teams in the league are practicing that during the regular season, like Boston and New York and Oklahoma City and San Antonio. So that's what I'm saying. You got there's levels to this, and you're seeing the difference in the levels. And right here is the lesson is, and I've said this at times this year. It's like, yeah, this isn't good enough basketball. You guys got to tighten up. You got to tighten up. You got to be more consistent, and you got to stop falling off a cliff with the level of play and the quality of what y'all are doing. In some ways, the whole 82 is a time to practice the quest for a perfect 48 minutes, and just trying to do that and duplicate that more and more as the season goes on. You may have maybe a few games in the season that you do play a perfect game, the full 48 minutes. You want to expand on that and have more and more games like that, because the habits you build during the season, as far as careless turnovers or just not playing, having lapses, that comes into the playoffs too. I would love to have the idealized Raptors that are a high level offense team that does so well and kicks so much butt, beats Orlando by 52 on a Sunday. I'd love to see the Raptors, fighting tooth and nail against the Sixers in an overtime 1-point win on a Sunday in Scotiabank Arena. I'd love to see those Raptors in the playoffs, but can you turn it on and off like a switch? Or is your identity and who you are, who you collectively been for the whole entire season, good or bad? That's what it is, Raptors. That's what it is. You guys have got to come back next year, and with the idea from the start that you guys are building something towards this time that you're in right now. And that everything that you do from October of this year to next year's playoffs, which I'm sure you guys will be in the playoffs again next year. Let's not get it twisted. You are perfecting things to be the most qualified and most capable playoff team you can be the next playoff season. That's the lesson from these two games right here. You're not done yet. You can still salvage this. And the game last night, once again, I know we can beat Cleveland. We showed all the signs of it. We're right there with them, even though we're playing so shitty with so many turnovers. The game was within hand the whole time. You guys just needed to turn on the jets or get a good run or get going, and y'all could have blown them out. But in some ways, the refs are holding you back. And in some ways, you're holding yourself back. That's what's happening. You're holding yourself back. I'm not going to blame the refs, although there was a ref hit job last night. It was unnecessary and it was stupid. They didn't need to do it because we were probably going to lose anyway. But yeah, your guys shot yourself in the foot, and you caused yourself your own loss yesterday. Yeah, and I'll put a bunch of it at the feet of Brandon Ingram, but he's not the only one. The whole team has to tighten up and play a very high level of excellence in basketball to be the best team they can be. Darko in some ways is an easygoing guy. He's a people person. And in some ways that may be the whole message this summer after this is like, look, now that you've seen it, you see just how much we have to be top quality all the time. And that's the next level of what we try to do next year to perfect our team to be ready for excellence and quality. That's it. That's it right there. And this is great because honestly, this is a higher level in the scheme of a young rebuild. This is great. This is honestly great. Now, in some ways, this is the scary thing. It's like, okay, they'll do this. They'll get some good playoff success next year, if not this year still. And whether it's Eastern Conference Finals or the finals themselves. And then like, whoa, it goes to a whole other level up here. That's what I'm saying, Scotty. That's what I'm saying, Jamal. That's what I'm saying, Brandon. Is like each level, it gets even more intense. So it's like you want to be as perfect as possible. You want to be as ethically good with the basketball and playing a high quality as possible because your quality will be tested at each level that you get in each round of the playoffs. You know, the Raptors champions in 2019 had a very high quality to them in a lot of different ways. And that's why they did it. That's why they survived the playoffs and got to the top. And that's what it takes to do this. You guys can't be, autopilot for most of the season and just playing off your talent and, doing things and like, we're having success. We're talented, but you're not really doing it in the right way. It's hollow. It's kind of like you're doing it and coasting off of great talent like Scotty, RJ, and Brandon and the rest, but you're not doing it ethically right so that when it's tested under pressure, that it comes through right. That's the thing that's going on here right now. That's the thing right here. That's it. That's it. All right, let's see what y'all are saying on the chat. Thanks for letting me rant and rave for 30 minutes in my reaction to the game. I hope you guys found some interesting perspectives from what I just said. We'll see. All right, somebody's antsy to get in here. I see who it is. I like this. Thank you for giving me my rant. Seymour Pate, 4 quarters. Good morning, sir.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're on.
My phone's tweaking. Yeah, I just want to say one thing. I think we messed up as a society by intertwining politics with sports, and I'll explain why I say that.
That's interesting.
I think, because when you look across the board of all sports, and I'm going to get to why I think it's hindering the Raptors as well. Across the board on all sports, for hockey, whatever, you got Matthews winning that gold for the U.S., and the moment he won the gold, all the Toronto fans, or most Leaf fans were saying, yo, trade him, because he can't do that for the Canadian team, but he could do it for the American team.
Yeah.
Right? And then you had the Blue Jays. They had, I think his name is Bichette. He used to play on the team. He went to New York for a lot of money. I think politics was behind that. His dad's a pro-American, played for the Rockies, and told him, get up out of Canada. Right? Yeah. And then same with basketball. I think there's a lot of pressure on Mitchell and Harden. They're getting calls from a lot of people who don't like Canada. I wouldn't be surprised if Goran Dragic called them dudes and said, listen.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're getting paranoid on that one. But what you're saying, I think has, let's take RJ. RJ's a good example of this. RJ was a media darling in New York, but in some ways he got traded back to Canada, and he loves it. But what are they doing? They're blackballing him as far as covering him. They don't want to talk about him. He's a good example of this in some ways. I get what you're saying, and I think it's right. I think that in some ways, and this is not anything new, I think that politics and sports have been intertwined in so many different ways. We can go all the way back to Muhammad Ali. We can go all the way back to Jesse Owens. We can go back to like the hockey win over the Russians, that whole thing that happened, the Miracle on Ice. There's always been some underlying political themes. And even with the Olympics, that's why the Olympics are all jacked up, because the IOC in some ways is a really weird entity. And, the U.S. is such a weird country at this point. In some ways, they're like a cult of personality around Trump at this moment. And, there's a lot of shady shit that happens, like State Department kind of shit that you think wouldn't happen, but it is happening, because part of it is perception wars, and part of it is, especially right now with elbows up and the tariffs and stuff, there is a little bit of weird animosity, a little bit more ratcheted up between the States and Canada, obviously. And in some ways, the way that things go with Canadian teams in the American league sports are a little bit of an indicator of a little bit of a visible thing that people can see as far as this. And I'm not going to disagree with you because we're getting like U.S. propaganda shown to us up here in Canada because of these playoffs right now, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, espouse on this more. I love this topic, Seymour. I'm not going to disagree with you on this because I really do believe there's a lot more influence from politics in outcomes for sports.
Yeah, because like wars happen behind interest, global greed and interest, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's trying to do nothing that doesn't benefit them. There's not a person right now that's doing stuff just to do it. Like everybody's doing stuff to only benefit themselves. That's why the other day I took 5,000 cans downtown to hand out to the homeless. You know, and someone said to me, well, how are they going to cook it? It's not the point. It's just doing stuff that you don't benefit from. Just be a human being, show humanity, right? Yeah. And we've lost that now. To my point with the Raptors, I think they want to get us out the way quick because they don't make money stateside with the games being filmed in Canada, right? Like there's a thing with Rogers and all that, right? Is there a blockage or are they together now?
Yeah, I think that you're right. You're onto something, but it's not exactly what you think. I think that, you know, it's really weird. Like when we won in 2019, we really did do something kind of impossible. We beat the association. We didn't just beat the Warriors to win that championship. We beat the whole entire league and the perception of the league and the idea that the Raptors should never, ever win a championship because a lot of American NBA fans believe this. And then when we did the impossible, what was their take after? Well, you'll never, ever do it again. Because and this is the thing, and they want to make sure this never happens. So there can be all kinds of different ways. That's why us getting into it again is going to be the hardest climb, and it's going to be really, really tough. And that's why I get so mad when people sully our championship, when people say disrespectful things about it, because honestly, it was one of the hardest championships to ever achieve by any NBA team ever in the history of the NBA. And you know, we can look at the World Series last year.
Right.
That's another example. And there's dubious calls in some of those games where things happen a certain way. And in some ways, the Blue Jays could have wrapped up something here, but the call was a little dubious at this time. I didn't watch it, but I heard about it. And you know, that is there a person in the State Department saying, no, the Dodgers cannot lose to the Blue Jays. We're going to make sure they win. No, there's no way Team Canada beats Team USA in men's hockey. We can't let that happen and win. And, you know, where are the manipulations around it to kind of get that favor towards that outcome happening? You know? So
yeah, you could see it because, like I said, they don't look what happened to Masai after we won. Like a cop put hands on him.
Yeah,
when he was trying to go on the floor.
Yeah, and that may have also, you know, I hate to say this, but that could have been planned, honestly. That, you know, there's white supremacists rampant in law enforcement in the United States. And it's very much even more true with Trump in charge because he's hiring them. All the ones that got kicked out are getting hired back in as ICE agents now. And, you know, it could very well be that there was some sort of white supremacy group that was like, yeah, that guy, he's in charge, but let's act like we don't know him and let's do this shit to him. You know, because this is the thing I say. The security guys should know all the principal people that are involved in the teams so that they know who's coming off and on the court if they've done their job. Just like announcers need to know the players' names and some of the stats. Well, security crews are supposed to know principals and important people. And Masai Ujiri is number one on the Raptors list. That's why I do have a theory that this shit was not an accident and that they did that shit just totally out of like racial hate. And I hate to say that. So
I think the cop was gambling, and they lost money, and he seen Masai and just snapped when he probably seen the Raptors badge on him because he had to have like a press badge or something, right? Like some sort of.
He had the badge, and he showed it to him, but the guy still held him back. And in some ways, it could be that the guy was also a Warriors fan, and he was pissed off that they had lost. You know,
right? Yep, for sure. A lot of people lost their houses. A lot of people put their houses up betting on the Warriors and their cars and mortgages and all.
Well, anybody who's gambling on sports to that level is an idiot and deserves that to happen. Honestly, I'm not going to feel sorry for anybody who's doing that. No, because nobody should be putting stakes like that on sports outcomes. That's their own damn fault. But yeah, this is a very interesting topic. And, it makes you wonder, well, why the hell do we even root for the Raptors? Because that's the thing. Just like Seymour says, you're telling me there's a chance. Well, that's the thing. We're the ultimate underdogs. And in some ways, other people from around the world identify with us, even Americans that live in states all over the states. People around the world identify with us because in some ways they see that it's like, look, things are a little bit more stacked against Toronto Raptors. And there's all kinds of reasons why. And people can gaslight us and say, no, they're not. We're not. And all that bullshit. Don't fucking tell us to our face that there isn't. And then there's shady shit going on behind everybody's backs. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And people will say, no, don't be one of those kind of Raptors fans. Bullshit, motherfucker. I've been watching this team for 30 years. And I've seen this from the start and how it evolved and the different phases and the different places where it happens. And, if go ahead.
And for another example, Tristan Thompson, the guy we don't like.
Yeah.
I think because he kisses up to that side of the border so much.
Yeah.
They love him. And he turns his back on us.
Yeah. It's almost like if you talk to Tristan and you had an ability to just talk to him, and he was completely being honest with you, he'd say something like, yeah, guys, I'm Canadian. I'm from Toronto, but I saw the other side, and there's a whole secret thing that I'm involved in that y'all have no idea about, and I'm just on it, and you can tell my energy from it, but I won't tell you expressly what it is, and I won't explain it to you.
Yeah, he's a Mark Jones. He's another Mark Jones.
Yeah, it's different though, because in some ways he found joy and success off of the misery of the Raptors being on that team with LeBron. And in some ways, he reveled in that whole thing from there too much. And in some ways, that's what's made him who he is at this point. But yeah, in some ways, he's a good example of what you're talking about. There's people like Wayne Gretzky's another one that's absolutely a turncoat and not actually a valued Canadian at this point, which is sad because he's the great one. And he's supposed to be the greatest, one of the greatest hockey players ever in the history of the NHL. And somebody that we should claim pride in, but we can't anymore because he's compromised. And honestly, he identifies as an American before a Canadian at this point.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because they said in the last Olympics, he was in the Team USA locker room talking to them.
Well, he's best friends with Trump, and Trump has used him as a prop in the middle of his whole 51st state bullshit. Wayne Gretzky's standing next to him.
That's sad, man.
So it makes all of us up here in Canada say, well, fuck you, Wayne. You're not so great. And you're not a fucking Canadian hero anymore. And in some ways, that's our duty as Canadians is to tell him this. Because, look, man, you just threw it away like Kawhi threw away his shit when he left Toronto. You just threw it away, Wayne. You threw it away. So it's an interesting topic. And I'm sure that your perspective is very interesting being in the province that you're in right now.
For sure.
And, in Alberta, it's, there's a lot of weird stuff going on out there and stuff like that. That's why I'm very, very vigilant about, the rhetoric coming from the States and understanding that Donald Trump is, just this continent's version of Putin at this point, and why Canadians do need to be very resilient and observant and ready. And Mark Carney's talk about us being more independent is exactly right. And that in some ways, Mark Carney even said in the last week that our close relationship with the United States is becoming a liability at this point.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So it's like, I like the idea of us spending more on defense. I like the idea of us being more dependent on ourselves. And I like the whole idea of us broadening our scope of relations with the rest of the world and getting this group of countries together to look out for each other, the middle powers. So this is very important because, look, the U.S. people are fighting from inside, and there's a lot of good elections going on where the right people are winning, and the U.S. people are trying to fight through the ballot box right now. But in some ways, there's a lot of overtures that Trump's going to try and strong-arm the elections in the midterms, just like a Putin would or a fucking banana republic dictator would. And that's the thing. If the Americans are truly who they say they are, and they're patriots, and they do it in the spirit of their country that has been for 250 years, since I know, because the fucking bullshit's all over the advertisement at the Raptors games right now. You know, if they do it in the spirit of what that country is actually built on, they will fucking be defiant and they will vote this shit out. But I don't know if that system is healthy enough to not be broken to the point where it's still just elections that are bought, and politics are bought by the very rich, and it's just like that, and that's what it is at this point. In some ways, it's
you can't ask for anything to be fair in these times, especially with who's leading everything. Like with Trump, I'm expecting the worst. That's what I'm expecting. I'm preparing.
Well, in some ways, that's the right thing to do, just to be safe and just to be kind of ready for whatever. You know, we're a very tough country, and we're a very big country. We're a very diverse country, and we're a very intelligent country. We have a lot of things in our favor. And, you know, the U.S. has gone into places like Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and they've all been failures. They've all been failures. And these are countries that have nothing like we have here in those periods of time. So it's like, you know, logistically, the U.S. trying to do anything with us in certain ways is not smart for them. Let's just put it that way. So, and especially since he seems to be stretching them thin all over the place with things in Venezuela, Iran, and he's even talking about invading Cuba soon and all this bullshit. He's absolutely a terrorist at this point. He's absolutely a terrorist. So either way, this is heavy stuff. Maybe we should drive back to the main theme of the channel.
Another thing too, what I was saying though, why I don't like that politics is involved. Like Dallas, the Mavericks, they had a good season the year before, right? Like they actually, they went out in like the first round, but they still had a good team and everything. But I think you said it, like Kyrie doesn't want to play for the ownership because the ownership is involved in what's going on around the world, right? So like I think certain people like that shouldn't have a position in the league owning a team.
Yeah.
Because we can see the elites is what's putting the blindfolds over everybody's eyes and have us against each other when really they're the ones messing up the world. You know?
Yeah.
I was just saying to somebody, we all just got through that terrible disease that went around like that. I don't want to say the word, the C word that was going around. We all just got through that when we were wearing masks and stuff. How do we get to a point where we're in war?
Well, that's the thing, Seymour. And that's why I keep telling everybody, the way things are going, everything's destabilizing because there's very poor leadership in the world right now. And it's absolutely a stranglehold by the billionaire elite 1% on the power of the world. But they really are idiots. In some ways, they only care about making money and they don't care about sustainable systems or the people or anything like that. And at some point, push is going to come to shove. And there may be mass movements that are very, very interesting because I've studied this in grad school in sociology. And, you know, Trump's canceling all the sociology classes in the United States and colleges because he doesn't want people to be educated like me as far as on social movements and, this kind of studies. You know, they really want people to be dumb and sheep so that they can just tell them what to do in their lives and stuff. So there's somebody's going to give because gas prices are part of the early part where it's like the thing they don't understand is they think they're going to make all this money off gas. Well, more and more people are going to pivot to stuff that doesn't need to use gas, whether it's solar, whether it's electric, whether it's wind and all this stuff. And the rest of the world's already moving this direction and it's working. So the template for moving in this direction is working. So this whole thing in Iran in some ways is going to backfire. It's going to make more and more of the world less dependent on fossil fuels. And we may get more freedom that direction. That's the way we get more freedom as people is when we get away from the fossil fuel control of this world. And the other thing that has to change is the power of the genocidal country of Israel and its ability to control the United States and other countries' politics too, because they're paying them to look the other way or not talk about it. And, that's a big part of the problem. I think that the Mavericks, the way they went this year is just God's way of punishing Adelson. That Adelson's an absolute horrible family. And they funded the genocide of Palestine. And, they can get their guy Luka traded by Adam Silver, and he can give them Cooper Flag. but it doesn't mean that it's all going to work out, because it's all hollow and decayed and ugly and gross and unholy because of the where that money comes from or where it goes to and what it funds. And so maybe God's punishing the Mavericks because it's like, look, if you're more successful, more children in Palestine get bombed. I mean, it's that simple. And, you know, Adam Silver is holding up for Zionists as far as like, if he's not going to let the WNBA sign Natasha Cloud because she says things that are pro-Palestine and for people that are getting bombed out and genocides occurring to them. And they're going to say, no, you can't be in the league like Colin Kaepernick. You know, there is very much a like anti Palestine stance from the NBA right now. And it's really because there's big money involved in all of it, and it's all connected to each other. It's all connected. So yeah, go ahead.
Pretty bad, man. Like you can even see it, like the what's his name, Danny Abdi or whatever.
Yeah.
Like someone said, they're giving him extra
publicity.
Like, I think he's a good player. I do see his game. He can play.
He doesn't deserve this spot.
Pardon?
I don't think he deserves this publicity spot. He's totally being pushed because he's Israeli.
Right. Yeah, you could see it. There's a push. There's a battery.
It's artificial.
Sure.
And it's just like in wrestling. Think about this, Seymour. If Vince McMahon decide, hey, John Cena, I want to make you into a star. We're going to push you to the top. We're going to have you headline WrestleMania next year. And then they turn around and say something to somebody like Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, you don't get no push, even though you may be better than John Cena or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And this is the kind of stuff that happens with Scotty and RJ versus somebody like Denny or OG or Jalen Brunson or something like that. It's like, we won't push these people, and we won't push these people. We'll hold them down, even though they may be better than the people we're pushing, because it's all, you know.
Based on what you just said, do you think that's the case with the Wemby and Scotty situation for defensive player? Like, I know Wemby's an amazing player. I've seen his highlights. But what Scotty did, Scotty had like 100 blocks, 100 steals.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I would say this, you know, I'm kind of happy with how the votes went down, because Scotty did get good just due. He got 5th out of everybody. And that's pretty good. That contends that he probably will be first team all defense, which is fantastic. If he gets that, if he's on second team all defense, you'll know that's what we just talked about. But he should get first team. I don't have a problem with Wemby getting it. In some ways, he's a phenomenon. In some ways, he definitely does make people have to change their offensive schemes just by where he is placed on the court. You know, in some ways, if there's anybody in the league is going to get Defensive Player of the Year other than Scotty, it should be Victor. So I'm not mad at that. You know, the fact that they put Gobert above him, that's not a big deal either, because he's going on legacy and how he's already done. It kind of bugged me that they're putting the Thompson kid above him. And then the other one was Chet, that they keep talking about Chet's better than him. I know you love Chet, but do you think Chet is better than Scotty?
Hell no.
For defense.
I'm going Scotty all day.
Yeah.
But Chet is up, like, I would say on a scaling of out of 100, I'm putting Scotty as a 91, 90, and I got Chet at about an 87, 88.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in some ways, Scotty's way more fleshed out as a defensive player than Chet. Chet can't guard 1 through 5, you know?
No.
And in some ways, this is another example of where you can see where, you know, they're going to push who they want to push, just like Vince pushes different wrestlers. He can bury somebody just like he can push somebody. You know, they can bury RJ Barrett and they can push the hell out of Denny Abdia. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of weird politics. And if you're like me and you see patterns because of you're on the spectrum, I can see all this stuff deeper than most people. And, you know, it's stuff like with the All-Star game this year, having 2 American teams and 1 world team. And then they're putting like Norman and Donovan or Kat on our world team. And it's just like more Americans on there. That's partly a subliminal message that, like, yeah, the world isn't as good as the U.S., and we can have 2 U.S. teams, and we can put 2 U.S. players on the world team because it's like that. And I'm like, this is bullshit, man. There's enough world players and good world players in this league where we could have USA versus the world, straight up 2 teams of 12, and it would be perfectly good game. But in some ways, this shows, once again, insecurity from Americans about themselves and this, that they have to overdo this to do this to make themselves like seem like they're high and mighty. You know, it's very much Trump mentality kind of stuff. I have to brag that I'm so good, but we can all see the truth. You know, it's like,
well, I'm gonna get up out of here. I'm gonna get up out of here. But yo, last thing I want to say is let's not get into the off-season talk yet, yo.
We're I hear you.
We're in the middle of a fight, people. We can't be talking off-season yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that they listen. I always look at it this way with playoffs: the home team's supposed to win. And until somebody loses on their home court, then there really is an aberration to what's supposed to be happening in the series. They just did what they're supposed to do for 2 games. And now we have to do what we have to do for 2 games. Yeah.
So you gotta lock in. Lock in.
All right, yeah. Get some shots up, Seymour, and do them in the name of the Raptors to get that good energy up for them to make their shots next game. That's right.
Come on.
All right, buddy.
All right. Y'all enjoy your day, man.
There you go. You can hear the ball bouncing. Do that again, man. That sounds good. Yeah, the backboard. Woo-wee! Let's go. Cha. That's the sheriff, Seymour Pape, calling in from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The city slicker on early time. Putting the shots up in the warehouse and talking heavy politic subjects. Wow. All right, Trevor J, let's get you in right now here. Words of wisdom from Trevor J. You might not always be able to perform and compete the way you want to, but the effort and attitude you bring will always be a reflection of how committed you are. Mentally tough athletes still give their best, even when they're not playing their best. Yeah, I like this. This is timely. You know, sometimes your body will betray you. This is the old way with the old NBA players in the 80s. People would have broken hands and broken feet, and they'd still be playing in the playoffs. It definitely wasn't this soft-ass shit now. Nah, people win championships with broken limbs in the old NBA. And some people say, well, that's just stupid. Why did they do that? They didn't have sports medicine. Well, I'm just saying, sometimes that's what it takes to really want it, is that you're going through the pain, the literal pain. Talk to Kyle Lowry about the 2019 championship run for the Raptors and the pain he was going through on the down low that nobody really knew, or they kept secret from everybody. And he went through it and became a champion through it. That's what I'm saying. There's a certain level of what you can pay to play and get success. And some people aren't willing to pay it all the way that way. And some people aren't allowed to anymore because there's sports science and the medical staff won't let you. Blessings to the Jones family and all the Raptor Freak families. That's right. Trevor's saying Raptors losing last night's game by too many turnovers, 22, and Ingram not scoring points to help the win. But the game was right there to win for sure. It's frustrating when you see it like this. You know, if it was one of the games that we played, it was very similar to the games we played against them last fall, except it was a playoff game and everything's more important because the outcome's important and stuff. It was a regular season game, even an in-season tournament game like the one we played against them when Jamison Battle went crazy. You know, that these are games we would have won. We would have won this game if it was regular season, but there were stakes that were high and it mattered. And in some ways, Cavs knew that and the refs knew that, but the Raptors didn't know that. And that's the problem right there. I don't understand why don't we use Jamison? Jamison had such a good game against them earlier this year and single-handedly almost won the first game against the Cavs this year. Why aren't we using Jamison, Darko? Seriously, get him out there and let him shoot some. Seriously, just to see if we can get a repeat of what he did earlier in the year. Seriously. Yeah, Trevor's saying Tempo star Brittany Sykes expects the Toronto Tempo to make the WNBA playoffs. That's not what she said. Let's not misquote people. That's not what she said. She said, this is exactly what Slim said. Slim said, since the Valkyries made the playoffs last year, it's very possible that we could make the playoffs this year. That's what she said. She didn't say she expects it. She just said, because the Valkyries set the template this past year of making the playoffs as a first-year expansion team, that we could do it too, is what she said. But she didn't say she expects it. She just said that it's possible. That's all she said right there. So we got to make sure that we're not misquoting people, and we are saying what they're saying. Trevor's saying Toronto's Tempo star Marina Mabry dropped a YouTube video yesterday. Yes, and my Toronto Tempo Redditor of the day is the Macaron, and they posted it on Toronto Tempo Reddit, and it's Marina moving to Toronto vlog. Figured this would be a good introduction to the chaos that is the Mabry family. since we've got Dara too, maybe too, for those who aren't familiar. Yeah, it's a fun video. It starts with her very upset. And well, it's kind of like a little sampler platter of Cash Money Mabry and her life and her emotions and the way she is. And she's crying. She's upset. She's still in the United States. She's in New Jersey. And this is probably filmed like a week ago, like a while ago. This is not from recently. This probably happened like last week or something, like 10 days ago. And she's upset because she didn't realize that customs was going to be a hard ass on her with her dogs. She wanted to bring her dogs across the border with her, but she didn't realize there are rules with claiming dogs or having them up to date with shots to bring them across the border. I remember this. I mean, we did this when I was married. I had 2 dogs. When I moved back to Toronto with my ex-wife, we had to have all their papers correct so they could cross the border. So basically, she just found out there's formalities about bringing dogs across the border, and her dogs may not be able to come right away if they don't have their papers, basically. So she was upset about that. She was crashing out on that. She's getting all upset. I didn't know that I had to have this and this. It's like, it's all going to work out, Marina. Don't worry. Teresa's got you. I'm sure she's got the form ready for you, and she could probably do something. You know, this is part of what the Raptors and the Tempo are going to be doing for their players, is to help them in their life affairs and making sure that their pets can get to Canada. And you get there. Her dad drove her from New Jersey to Connecticut to pack up her house to get ready to leave. And they show stuff like her sick in the middle of the night, barfing. Oh, I don't feel well. Maybe I should call the movers and tell them to come the next day because I'm feeling like ass. It's 3:30 in the morning and I'm up. You know, her dad's an interesting character. He's putting forth all the stupid Canada jokes about the North Pole and cold while he's driving her in a Los Angeles Dodgers hat. It's like, yeah, that's the real good way to get you ingratiated, Papa Mabry, with the Canadian fans, jackass. Yeah, read the room, buddy. But I guess maybe he just wants to rub it in or something. Maybe this is something to go along with what Seymour was calling about with the stuff with the topic we were just talking about. But yeah, in some ways, it's like, all right, I get it. You're a Dodgers fan. You're from New Jersey. Like, why are you wearing that LA hat? You know, what the fuck is that? Why aren't you a Yankees fan or a Mets fan or something like that? Papa Mabry. Yeah, you don't be running around in Canada for too much of that Dodgers hat, man. My guy, come on now. Come on now. We see the reunion of Marina and Dara at the hotel when she shows up. And a lot of fans are surprised at how much taller Marina Mabry is over her younger sister, Dara. It's like, oh, I thought they were like equal heights. No, Marina is quite taller than her. And it's so fun the way she treats her. She treats her like a little bugaboo, kind of like, oh, my little sister, my little dar. Some of it's annoying, but some of it's very endearing and cute too. The way that they are. And then they're in a group chat with their family and the other sister, Michaela, and one of the brothers, and the brother is being a jackass, and they tell me like, shut up, you're an idiot, and all this stuff. It's just an interesting little window into their lives. In fact, it was cool to see the moment that they realized they could see the tower out of the condo they were staying in, and they're like, oh my God, there's the tower, and they run out on the balcony, and they're filming it and stuff, and little Dara goes, this is where all the partying happens over here, pointing down to the street. This is where all the partying happens here. And Marina goes, I guess we're going to be going there later tonight. I don't know. Either way, this is going to be fun. Some people get rubbed the wrong way by the Mabrys, but I think that's their nature. Is that, you know, you either like them or you don't. Okay. So far, I'm finding them very entertaining. And if she's going to be a real one for the Tempo on the court and she's going to be balling all out, well, hey, sign me up for the Cash Mabry fan club, because I'll be in it. But yeah, it's an interesting first couple steps, and it's a whole new culture we're learning with the Tempo roster. It's a whole new culture. Really, really is. Trevor J's bringing up the Atlanta Hawks, even the series with the New York Knicks last night in game 2 of their series on Madison Square Garden court. That's a huge accomplishment. Of course, the history between the Hawks and the Knicks, there's a lot of rivalry there. Do they need Trae Young to beat the Knicks in New York? Nope. They need CJ McCollum, apparently. CJ McCollum is having a renaissance period. He is having a heyday all of a sudden. since he got moved to Atlanta. He's become a very valued vet and a very important cog to the wheel. I mean, he was showing signs of playing at a high level in his last spot before he got traded to Atlanta, but he's taken it to another level. It was not Alexander Walker that led their team last night against the Knicks and OG. It was CJ McCollum. And that's very interesting to me that, at this point in his career, he hasn't had a whole lot of playoff time because he's been on a lot of bad teams most of his career. But wow, he's really taken the opportunity that he's gotten in the postseason right now, and he's making the best of it. So in some ways, I give you some respect, CJ McCollum, for leading the Hawks team to a victory over the Knicks in Madison Square Garden last night. Of course, the side effect of that is a crash out for Knicks Nation that's probably going on crazy right now. In some ways, that's fun. It's like fans of around the NBA that aren't Knicks fans, let's get the popcorn and let's just watch Knicks Nation react to a loss in game 2 last night and just enjoy yourself, the entertainment value. Yeah, there's something that is very entertaining about Knicks' failure and seeing how their fan nation reacts and how they crash out. Oh, yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, Trevor's saying this. Timberwolves beat the Nuggets last night. Yeah, they evened the series. And some are saying that Rudy Gobert fueled his performance from the snub in the Defensive Player of the Year award running. That Gobert had a chip on his shoulder and he had something to prove because Wemby won Defensive Player of the Year. Well, that series is even. And, well, we want the playoffs to be exciting and not be all sweeps. So having these two series split at this point is good for the playoffs. Let's just put it that way. Trevor Jay's brought up that, even though the Raptors lost yesterday, we did win. We won the coin flip. That's right. They did a coin flip yesterday to determine who's going to draft first in the draft this year between us and Atlanta, because we both finished with the same regular season record. And, well, we won the coin flip. So we're going to pick 19th and they're going to pick 20th. So the official draft pick for the Raptors in this draft coming up is number 19, which some people would say, oh, my gosh, we're mid and we're going to get number 19. And we'll hear all the bullshit about, oh, my gosh, well, if we're going to be mid, we might as well just tanked and lost the whole time to get a higher pick. All those people, shut up. We picked Jacoby at 17, so we're going to pick 19. And right around that area of the draft, we picked OG. We've picked Pascal. We picked Jacoby Walter. So it doesn't matter where we draft, y'all. We're going to get a good player no matter where we draft. Just trust me on this. So, yeah, 19th, and we won the coin toss. So at least we won something yesterday, right? At least we won something, right? Reggie's here. Good morning to Smooth Brown Man, a Raptor Freak trivia champion and a supporter of this channel. I appreciate him. New Orleans was never a serious team, guys. Just party there. That's what I'm saying. 10 years of being in this league, Brandon. And I know the first part was in LA. In some ways, you had some early orientation about the league through being a Laker. But then you went to New Orleans, and a lot of that New Orleans time was just time wasted with Zion Williamson, goofing around with his career. In some ways, you can blame Zion partly for the problems with Brandon because, they just never got things in a serious way going there. And everybody's just like bumps on the log. And just we're on an NBA team. It's called the Pelicans. Yeah, I can see why people don't take that shit seriously. I can see why, unfortunately, when you name yourself after such an odd bird. Let's just put it that way. So it's like, I worry about this, is that, like, look, and this was evident when we went to New Orleans. I said, Brandon, you can't play on the Raptors like you're on the Pelicans still. And, Pelicans fans will come around and tell us to say, look, man, Brandon's good, man. He's good to do this like every 2 or 3 games. He's just going to go off and be a dominant guy and just kick some ass. Yeah. I mean, in the New Orleans sense, if you guys were bottom dwellers and you weren't having very important games most of the time, well, that's easy to do when the stakes aren't that high and the pressure isn't there. But, I mean, you guys did do some really good times too, because I remember y'all kicking our ass at times too when you were up and maybe Zion was healthy. But like, what would happen in the postseason? Did you guys crash out and fail? Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to think that Brandon Ingram's been ruined by his long time on the Pelicans, but I feel like that may be part of it. It's established habits and established thinking from maybe being on that team for too long. because we can't have that, man. We can't have that. You got Shed coming from Houston with the mentality with Kelvin Sampson. You've got different mentalities around our team of very high excellence and wanting to win. Elijah Martin, University of Florida. Come on, Brandon. Do you have that kind of a knowledge of winning and wanting to win? Is what I'm asking you, man. Seriously, that's what I'm wondering there. Yeah, Seymour's laughing. Yeah, they just go there to party. That's why Brandon misses it so much. It was like, man, it's so fun in New Orleans. My teammates and I, we partied all the time. KT saying this, need more from BI. He put his foot in his mouth. I know. That's the thing, man. In some ways, I gave him a pass on what he said after the game. I thought it was fair. I didn't think he was really out of pocket. Some people took it really badly, though, and said that he's throwing his coach under the bus. He's throwing his teammates on the bus. And he's not taking any he's not taking enough credit for what happened from his fault. I saw it not in any of those ways. I saw him as just explaining, they wanted to use me as a screener. I could do better. My teammates could do better. The coach could do better. And I thought that was all fair. But man, Paul Pierce didn't think it was fair. He came crashing on him and saying, no, man, if it was me, I would be like the man and just say, I'm taking this shit and I'm going to go do it. And I don't give a shit what the coach is saying or if my teammates are helping me. I'll demand the ball from you guys and I'll do it myself and I'll go take care of business. And in some ways, that mindset that Paul Pierce is professing on that podcast is the mindset of Kobe, is the mindset of Reggie Miller, is the right mindset of Michael Jordan. And that's what I'm asking you, Brandon. Are you just a high-level elite scorer that's talented, but you do not have any sort of Mamba mentality? Is that what this is? I mean, it felt like you had Mamba mentality against the Raptors that one time you dropped a 40-piece on us. It felt like you had Mamba mentality in a game against the Miami Heat just a couple weeks ago where you absolutely took over and looked electric. Now, but that was an easier setting. That was a lower stakes. The pressure wasn't as on. So you can't do this when the pressure's on? Is that what the question is, Brandon Ingram? Can you do this when the pressure is on? Can you go to those higher levels when the pressure is on? That's what we need to know. That's what we need to know. And to me, we're trying to get another championship. We're trying to build towards the highest level. And if you're fool's gold, if you're somebody that'll do really good for us for the regular season and get us a good record, but flame out in the playoffs, well, we have a history with that too, with certain people. And we don't like it here in Toronto. And Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan had postseason failures over and over again, extremely good regular seasons. And in some ways, that's the whole thing we got to figure out with you, Brandon. That's the whole thing we got to figure out. Once again, you control your own destiny. You control the Raptors' destiny. You control your own destiny with whether we value you and want to keep you long-term. Because I'll say this right now, if you're a dud in the playoffs and you're not going to fulfill that aspect of your player build that you're supposed to at this time, then what are we even doing? This is what I'm saying. There may be other guys around the league that are at your pay grade and similar type of player that may be more capable to take over games and win games as a high level elite scorer. So that's what I'm saying, man. That's why that question starts getting like that. And when we see RJ carrying, we see RJ playing his ass off. We see RJ playing pretty good defense and rebounding and getting buckets when nobody else on the team is getting buckets. Yeah, Raptors fans start saying, yeah, we love RJ, and there's no way we can get rid of RJ. And thank God, I'm happy about that. Seriously. Let's do the Raptors Redditor of the day. Today's Raptors Redditor of the day is Automatic Beat 699, and he's a shedhead. Don't be quick to doom. Opinion. Here's some positives to take away for the rest of the series. I'm expecting to see a lot of doom and gloom and negativity on this sub tonight. BI lost us the game, but I still think this can be a good series. Mostly everyone else overall was either good or okay or usable. Yak was benched second half. I think that probably means CMB starting for the rest of the series, who has been playing great in my opinion, meaning we can be a good defense and rely on that, which we were tonight. 115 of 22 turnovers isn't a bad number at all. That's not good. Half court wasn't bad today. Second half, Scotty played super aggressive and looked like himself. We pushed the pace and played aggressively, aka stuck to our style of basketball. IQ coming back will greatly help the offense and the turnovers. Back-to-back games, losing the turnover battle this much versus an average at best defense is uncharacteristic. Most turnovers were unforced. I feel like we can hope and believe Ingram doesn't shoot this bad again and mentally check himself out the game. More importantly, if he can, then I think we are in a good spot otherwise. Overall, the rest of the series doesn't look so grim when you factor in IQ coming back and being a big offensive upgrade over Shed. While not tanking our defense because he's been solid, and to be honest, Shed hasn't shined defensively at all in this series. CMB starting, us playing our style, BI being at least closer to himself and less turnovers with IQ. At minimum, I still believe in the rest of the games being competitive and definitely not being swept. Go Raps. Let's enjoy the playoffs till it's over for real. Yeah, I like this positive attitude. I just like that out of a lot of posts that are on Reddit, there is somebody that's trying to be kind of pointing to the positivity of things. So there you go. Raptors Redder of the day, automatic beat 699. Now, I'm going to say this right now. Don't expect them to just switch Colin into the starting lineup for Yak because there still is a lot of bonuses and pluses to Yak starting the game. Now, they could very well play Colin most of the game, but they start Yak just at the beginning. And the reason why is the jump ball. This is often the reason why you start a center that's your tallest guy because they're going to put Allen at the jump ball. And Scotty could jump against Allen, but it's not the best idea. Yak's the better person to jump against Allen. So if anything, Darko may still start Yaka Pirtle, and this may piss off a lot of Raptors fans, only for the jump ball. And he may have him jump the ball, play for like the first stint, and see if he can establish himself in certain ways still, like get rim protection and paint protection, and maybe even get the rebounding edge right from the start, or even try and slow down the bigs on the other side, even though he's been unsuccessful with that the first two games. It could very well be he plays the first 4 or 5 minutes and they sub him out for Colin then, and then Colin plays the majority of the game because the jump ball is important to a degree. And that's often why sometimes teams will start a center, even if they're not totally the guy they want to play bulk of the minutes, is really just to go get the jump ball at the beginning of the game. So don't be upset, Raptors fans, if Darko doesn't do the ceremonial switch from Colin to Colin from Jakob, because it may very well be exactly what I just said is the reason why. But it doesn't mean that Colin won't play the bulk of the whole entire game, though, afterwards. Just so y'all know. I can see this happening this way. Because, look, most of the season, Scotty did the jump ball, right? Has he been doing it in this series? No, he hasn't. Yak's been jumping against Jared Allen at the beginning of the game so far this series. Yeah, so, yeah, let's see. Let's see what else you guys are saying here. Raptors Champs is back in the chat with us. Raptors Champs, good morning to you. Good morning, Raptor Freaks and Champs. We will get a win in Toronto, hopefully 2 wins. And someone tell BI to close his mouth and put on pounds. Man, I mean, it's got to be tough. And that's why in some ways, look, people have been protective of Brandon. And I've tried to be one of them, but I have to say it when I have to say it. And I've kind of said what I have to say about it. It's like, look, I'm questioning whether you have Mamba mentality, Brandon. And that should be an insult to you. So you need to go find it. You need to go find it. That's right. Seymour's saying this. Kawhi has requested a trade. He requested a trade this morning? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Fiercey's here. Good morning to MJ. Good morning, fam, and happy Tuesday. It is playoff season, and tempers are flaring. Oh, my gosh. Let's be kind towards players who are struggling and don't have that much experience under this environment. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, I think everything I've said today is fair and not overly abusive or wrong or just infantile or immature. I think that my take that they are learning that, you have to practice the whole year playing a certain level of quality of basketball, which they didn't this year. Let's just be honest. This whole entire year may have been successful, but this was part of the stair steps of growing up as a young core. Is now you got a winning season, but you kind of did it in not totally ethical ways. And you could have done it a lot cleaner and done even better. And that's what they have to do. They have to think about all this. And then when they play next year, from the start of the season, really try and practice it at a whole other quality level. Because then when you get around to the playoffs next year, you'll be better trained and better practiced for the level of excellence and quality that you have to play for this postseason. That's it right there. That's it right there. Let's do our stars of the game real quick. I went ahead and decided I'm going to go ahead and do 5 stars for last night, even though some would argue, oh, they don't deserve it. They weren't that good. Come on, man. You're going to give them 5 stars. Well, I felt like there were 5 guys that I wanted to recognize. So I will go ahead and do 5 stars today. So my number 1 star was Scotty. I felt like Scotty was really trying hard, and you could see how pissed off he was at the end of the game. He was really mad. Like, you could tell he really is starting to get like the some of the stuff about like, not getting punked, looking better than your opponent, outscoring people. And his competitiveness was up in this game. He was really trying. We saw him guarding Donovan and James Harden at times, and he pissed James Harden off. At one point, him and James were jawing, and James was like, oh, "Okay, Scotty, you want to try and guard me and all this stuff." And James scored on him, but still, there was a really annoyance for James Harden. At one point, he was getting annoyed with Scotty because of the way Scotty was guarding him. So that's the right energy. That's the right kind of stuff. And even though we only saw Scotty on those 2 guys for a little bit of the game, it was interesting. They said this in the post-game news conference, Harden and Mitchell, that they know Scotty's the best defender on the Raptors, and that they're kind of just their philosophy is get the ball away from where Scott is on the court when they're on offense. That's kind of what they've been doing. So when Scotty's guarding Harden or Mobley or Donovan, they're going to the other option of the 3 of them that isn't guarded by Scotty. That's very much the game plan by the Cavs and Kenny Atkinson. They said it in the post-game news conference. So Scotty gets that respect as our best defender in the eyes of the Cavaliers. Scotty played 40 minutes yesterday, so he played his ass off, and he was putting a lot of effort out there. I'm not mad at Scott for how he was trying. Although I will say he still has the thing since he was a rookie where he disappears for a little bit of time and he's not consistently aggressive to try and score. And that's the thing, Scotty. In some ways, your unselfishness has held you back on this aspect. And this is the time now why you needed to practice it more during the season. That's why in some of these easy games against a non-playoff team in the regular season, you need to go ahead and just drop a 40 to 50 bomb on the other team just to practice, just in case you need to be the dominant guy and just go to work and just get a huge bag and forget about being a point guard or assist person. You've got to practice this, Scott, because you can't try and do it all of a sudden in the playoffs when you've never really scored many 40-plus games. I don't think you ever have. I don't even know if you scored 40 points yet. But this is something you need to do. You need to start practicing this, and you need to balance it with your playmaking and your all-around skill. But you do need to have games next season, Scott, where you are trying to be the main guy and you are doing the driving force for most of the scoring, and you get like a 40 bag. Because you're not going to be able to do that raise up in the playoffs in that intensity if you don't practice it on the lower intensity first. So next season, I would like to see you have some dominant games where you just ball hog. I don't care. You're that good. And it may go against your wiring as far as I'm an unselfish guy. I want to get assists. No, you need to practice being the dominant guy that gets most of the points for the season we're in right now. And that's why. 26 points for Scotty in 40 minutes, 11 and 19 from the field. Very, very good shot selection. Very, very high level execution. A lot of good mid-range little pops. Good recognition of where the defense was and taking the shots in the right ways. We even saw you pushing the ball up the floor more and actually generating some pace. And there was a little bit more of the Raptors looking like the Raptors on offense in this game than from game 1, for sure. 1 for 4 from 3, 3 of 4 at the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 turnovers, 2 steals and a block, a minus 17 for Scotty. He was the worst plus minus once again on the court. And there's something wrong with that, Scott. There's something wrong with that. You do so many intangibles. You do so much teamwork stuff. Why do you have the worst plus minus out of all the Raptors? And you got to search your soul for that and figure out why can you make it so that you outscore James and Donovan when you're out on the court more. Seriously. My second star of the game is our Canadian hero, RJ Barrett, who's had a very solid series so far. Honestly, we can't say anything bad about RJ. And anybody who is doing that right now, well, you just hate RJ. Because honestly, he's been our best player in this series. We know this. 38 minutes for Rowan Barrett Jr., 22 points on 10 of 13 shooting. Yeah, this guy takes bad shots. This guy is a chucker. This guy is inefficient. Bullshit. My ass. This man's 10 for 13. He did miss his only 3-point shot. He made both his free throws. 9 rebounds for RJ also. 5 assists, 4 turnovers, -9. Yeah, the turnovers by Scotty, Brandon, and RJ were really bad, really bad. 13 turnovers between the three of them. And RJ brought it up at the end of the game. He said, man, my 4 turnovers, that's no good. I can't do this. That's bad. I've had 4 turnovers in the first game and 4 turnovers in this game too. That's the one blemish, honestly, RJ. That's the one blemish. And in some ways, some of this stuff is like the one of the turnovers was you get muscled on the sideline. And you honestly, in the regular season, that would have been a foul. But Kevin Cutler's like, oh, it's the playoffs. There's extra physicality, and we'll let the Cavs just push you out of bounds, and we'll call out of bounds on you. That's kind of bullshit. And that was one of your turnovers. So in some ways, that's kind of bullshit. That should have been a foul called if it was a fair game. But no, they'll say it's physicality, it's the playoffs, and that's just part of it. If they bump you and foul you to push you out of bounds, and Kevin Cutler calls out of bounds on RJ. That's kind of messed up, man. It's kind of messed up. My third star of the game for last night is Sandro Mamukelashvili. Sandro off the bench got a double-double. 21 minutes, 12 points, 5 of 8 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, 1 of 2 at the free throw line, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal, a +7. He had the best plus-minus on our team. We outscored the Cavs when he was out there by 7. Yeah, Sandro's, I keep calling him a whirling dervish, a tornado, a cyclone, a guy who's just all up and down the court and all around and just swooping every which way. And for his size and who he is, he makes everybody else look bad for not hustling as much as he does. That's the thing, man. Raptors, you take the leadership of Scotty and RJ and Brandon, but you should take some leadership from Sandro. And you should pay attention to how he moves out there, and y'all need to all be moving like him because he's putting the right effort out. He's going after it. He's getting after loose balls. He's getting after rebounds. He's getting after it. He's not pussyfooting around. He's going very strong at the basket. He's going very strong to go get rebounds. And he is a great, great role model for you guys. So start playing more like Sandro. Seriously, the rest of y'all. Seriously, 10 points and 12 points and 10 rebounds. Good job, Sandro. Good job crashing the boards, and good job doing what you do. Seriously. My fourth star is Colin Murray-Boyles. He's been solid in both the games. He had another nice one. 26 minutes, 17 points for Colin, 6 of 10 from the field. He got the opportunity to shoot 2 threes in this one. They look ugly as hell. In some ways, he maybe needs to start practicing his threes again and maybe shoot more regularly in regular season next year again. 5 of 6 at the free throw line. I like that. He only missed 1 free throw. 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 steal, 1 block, a -6 for Colin. So, yeah, 17 and 7 for Colin Murray-Boyles, a rookie. Yeah, we like it. We like it. Now, I'm not going to diss Yak and just prop up Colin. In some ways, Yak did fine things in the game last night. It's just there was a very strong switch in the second half with Colin out there. But did we win the game still? No, we didn't. So there may have been a certain amount of Pirtle that should have played in the second half because he sat the whole second half that should have played and maybe would have helped us win. So I'll be devil's advocate to a lot of the people who are just crying victory for Colin over Yak as far as being in the lineup and say, you know what? We probably should have played Yak a bit in the second half in certain places. Kenny Atkinson was very proud of this after the game. He said we game planned to play in a way that would force them to not be able to play Pirtle. So understand, guys, this isn't that Pirtle's washed. It isn't that he's no good for us. It's that Kenny Atkinson schemed the Cavaliers to play in a certain way that it would entice us to play small ball and not want to put Yak on the court. And, they mirrored us. They didn't play Jared Allen that much in the second half themselves. So they mirrored us in some ways with that. But, yeah, let's not dump on Yak. Let's understand that he's a very valuable player for our team still. And there's a lot of things that he does that nobody else does. And maybe some of those things would have been helpful at the end of the game if Darko had brought him back in. But who knows? Maybe because he sat for so long and because of the nature of his back, that Darko's like, I can't jerk Yak around like that. He's either got to play his set rotation times or I got to take him out for the whole rest of the game because I don't want to jerk him around with physicality and stuff. So it's like once he didn't play the third quarter, it's kind of hard to insert him in the fourth and without him being warmed up. You know what I get? You know what I'm saying? You know? So, yeah, great game by Colin. My final star of the game is Jacoby Walter, who off the bench, 28 minutes, 14 points on 5 of 9 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3, hit his only free throw, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 steal, a -6. Yeah, Jacoby's great, reliable 3-point shooter for our team. He's probably the most reliable 3-point shooter we have right now, and I appreciate him for it. And like I said earlier, it's because he's done it so much, he's unconscious with it now. He's unconscious with it. And yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, we'll go over the rest of the guys. Brandon, oh my gosh, man. Like he didn't score in the first half. It was like so bad. 36 minutes, 7 points on 3 of 15 shooting. He was 1 of 3 from 3, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 turnovers, 1 steal, a -15. Yeah, him and Scotty, -17 and -15. The two all-stars with the worst plus minuses out there. That's our leadership failing towards the leadership of the Cavs, which is James and Donovan. It sucks. Pirtle only 9 minutes in the first half, 2 points on 1 of 2 shooting, 4 rebounds while he's out there, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, a -7. I mean, I don't mind benching Pirtle and playing Colin Moore. I'm not against that. I just don't want everybody to think, well, just because we're not using this player in this situation or this time that he's useless and we need to get rid of him. That's the thing. A lot of people are saying we need to waive him and stretch his contract or something like that. That's bullshit. That's stupid as fuck. He's so useful that even if he's not useful at all times, you need to have his kind of characteristics and traits on your team no matter what. So casuals and nephews, stop the Yaka bashing. In some ways, he's an essential player to our team, and y'all don't value him. Well, hopefully he doesn't ever leave, but if he does, you'll see why we should have valued him. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to get to that point. Shed was a dud last night too, man. He had 38 minutes out there and only 3 points, 1 of 5 from 3. He was definitely not hitting the 3 like he did in the first game. 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 turnovers, 2 steals, and a block. We've got to remember Shed is still a second-year player. And honestly, he's playing above his title. He's a backup point guard. He should not be starting. And I don't agree with him starting him this last game. I think that he should have made the switch to Jacoby to start in this game, but I think that he's not happy with Scotty doing too much because Scotty's going to have to bounce between battling Allen and Mobley and then point guard and doing all this. It's too much. And that's what Darko gets worried about. It's like putting too much on the table for Scott to deal with all at once. So he puts Shed out there. But I would argue this, Darko. You could start Jacoby at point guard. You know you can. And in some ways, it doesn't matter if you don't have to designate Scotty's the ball handler to bring it up off the court every time. You know, RJ's a little dangerous to do it. He can't get his pocket picked. Brandon the same. But I'll bet you Jacoby could probably bring the ball up the court and he would not get his pocket picked as an alternate to Shed. And the only reason why I say this is because, like a lot of people are pointing out, Shed is getting beat up on defense by Donovan and James. Those guys are bigger and stronger, and they're absolutely like kicking his ass. So, you know, Walter would do better. You know, you could even do something crazy like start 2 Canadians, put AJ out there at point guard because he played point guard at 905. And if you're just worried about that, it's just that Shed's way better off the bench. He's way better paired with people like Mamu. And I don't like him starting. I just don't like him starting. He's not, his attention to detail and his capacity to cause turnovers is just not good for starting right now. In some ways, smaller bursts off the bench just to hold things steady, and the bench minutes is his role. He should not have starters minutes and doing starter stuff. He just doesn't have the production, and he's too much of a liability. So no way 38 minutes should have gone to Shed last night. That's what I say, Darko. There's no way. You played AJ Lawson for 5 minutes. You could have played AJ for 20 minutes and balanced this out better, is what I'm saying. Take 15 minutes away from Shed and put 15 more minutes on AJ Lawson, because AJ's out there playing his ass off, and his minutes have been very quality. In fact, I think he's been a plus on both games. He's been a plus on both games. Yeah, AJ, 5 minutes, 2 points, 0 of 2. He made both his points at the free throw line, and he made an assist, and he was a +2. But yeah, that's our box score. The rest of the guys didn't get in. We had 9 players. Going to the other side, the excellence of those guys, And they, honestly, Scotty got 26 and RJ got 22. But on the other side, we see Donovan Mitchell with 30, James Harden with 28, and Evan Mobley with 25. Yeah, that's something like that. We can beat their bench and we can have two of our superstars hitting, but one superstar's not hitting, and we're not doing anything good with taking care of the ball. Boom, we lose. We lose. On the box score for the team stats, we both shot pretty good. We shot 51%, so the Raptors weren't shooting badly. That wasn't the Achilles heel. They did make 6 more threes than us, which was a difference. But we made the same amount of free throws, and we got the line less than them. So that's a good sign. We out-rebounded them 42-35, including 12 offensive rebounds. So that's a huge improvement, out-rebounding the Cavs in this game. The assist-to-turnover ratio, dismal. It was 1-to-1. 23 assists, 22 turnovers. That is horrible. That is not Raptors basketball. That is not Raptors basketball. And that's the key stat right there. 23-22 assist-to-turnover ratio. Raptors aren't winning if they have that many turnovers. They just aren't going to win. Points in the paint, we beat them by 12, 64-52. So we beat them in some really key stats. We shot 50%. We made our free throws. We did a lot of good stuff, but we still lost because we couldn't keep the ball from being turned over unforced in dumb ass ways. So yeah, the Raptors are down 0-2 to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round of the playoffs this year. But in some ways, this is a learning experience this year, and we all got to understand that's what it is. That's what I got to say right there. Yeah, that's what I got to say right there. See, Reggie's saying, Kawhi asked for a trade? Really? Whoa. Kawhi asked for a trade. I'm skipping a little bit. I can see I'm buffering. Hopefully you guys can see me all right. Nameless is saying, I'm now tempered my expectation. I'd be happy with 2 playoff dubs at this point. You can clearly see the difference of experience levels. Can't win without IQ anyways. It's not happening. Well, I don't know if that's totally true. I think we could probably win even without IQ. We'll just have to see how these guys do. Yeah, if I'm having trouble with my stream, it seems like my internet might be a little bit weird right now. Seymour's saying maybe it's his uncle who requested it. Can't take that crap seriously. No, I bet you he is. I bet you he is. I mean, he's hearing all the noise about how it's been a failure since he left Toronto and gone to LA. Yeah, it's so hilarious. It's like this guy's such a prima donna. That's why I hate these kind of players like him and Harden. That they just feel like they can direct themselves to go wherever they want to. And then they're never successful because they don't know what's best for them, honestly. They think they know what's best for them, but they don't. Kawhi Leonard's an extremely good example of that. You were best to stay in Toronto, Kawhi, you dumbass. Yeah, you wasted your time with Steve Ballmer's team all these years. You might have won another 2 or 3 championships, maybe at least one if you just stayed in Toronto. But no, the NBA couldn't have that. And this goes back to Seymour's call that I'm sure Adam Silver was very influential on Kawhi leaving Toronto and making sure that happened because they don't want the money coming over the border. In some ways, if we get a couple of playoff games, that Rodgers gets some money off the game on Thursday and on Sunday, he'll make some money off of that. And, in some ways they want to keep the money in the stateside. So, man, it is what it is. And you're an idiot. I'd have to say that to Kawhi Leonard right now. That's right. Nameless is saying Jamal Shed is obviously over leveraged against Harden and Mitchell. Yeah, they took him to school and made him look bad. I'm not really mad at Shed. This is natural and this is normal. It's not like I'm mad at him like I am BI because BI's got 10 years in and he should be knowing what this is. Shed's in his second year. And in some ways I understand why. In some ways, once again, he's a second round pick and we can't expect him to do first round pick kind of stuff necessarily, even though he does all the time. So it's a tough learning lesson for him, but he'll be better for it. And he's such a smart guy. And he's going to completely change how he approaches his offseason according to what his experience is in the playoffs right now. He will. Trust me. He will. J.O.'s here. Good morning to J.O. As a Sixers fan, I wanted to draft B.I. over Simmons because I felt he would fit better with Embiid. I think I would have been right, however. B.I. is lackadaisical on the court. Like you said, he's missing that killer mentality. Yeah, it's weird. Good to see you, J.O. I think I remember you. You're one of our old Philadelphia fans that used to come in and talk to us every once in a while. Yeah, that's interesting that back then you wanted him over Simmons. Well, that was right. That was right with what's happening now. I mean, where the hell is Simmons at this point? Yeah, but yeah, I worry that this is more a problem for the generation of the NBA too. Like, it's not just an individual problem. This is a problem with a lot of the guys around the league, where it's just like get to the league, get the bag, and be happy with that. But are you happy? Do you care about getting the chip? Do you care about doing all the hard work that it takes to get the chip? That's the answer. That's the question right now. And that's what DeMar DeRozan's talked about, and that's why I bring up a thing called DeRozan Code. Is like, do you work hard enough to show up all the time and to continually improve yourself and to strive to be better and better and better throughout your whole entire career? Or do you rest on your laurels once you get that money and you get that lifestyle and you're established as a player and you don't have to worry about things? And then you're just kind of in status quo. Then you're just in stasis and you don't grow anymore because you're not pushing yourself. That's the problem, I think, with a lot of NBA players these days, is that they are not pushing themselves in the way that they should. And that manifests in what we're seeing with Brandon right now. And that sucks, man. I don't want to be like that. But appreciate Philly fan being in here. The great Kyle Lowry. We love the great Kyle Lowry, the GOAT, and Philadelphia's son, Kyle Lowry. And hopefully you guys can steal some games against the Celtics. And that matchup, I'm kind of rooting for you guys on the down low because Big Dummy's out. And in some ways, I like the Sixers to be successful when Joel's out. I love Maxey. I love Lowry. I like Kelly Oubre. I don't like Paul George, though. But yeah, if you guys can steal some games or even beat the Celtics in the first round, I would not be upset. Seriously, if y'all beat the Celtics in the first round, that'd be fun. Can y'all do that, please? Man, I'm all choppy right now. I don't know why. Namus is saying the refs were whack too. I feel like they had a hand in Cleveland getting established early. The refs were kind of sus. They were sus later, like in the fourth quarter. They were very sus. All kinds of calls going against us, no matter what. But they didn't need to do that. It's like the Raptors were incompetent and they were going to screw up for themselves. The refs were just doing like that in case. They didn't need to do that. This was one of these weird cases where they did a ref hit job on us, but it wasn't necessary. I mean, we had a ref hit job done on us when we played Philly that one game in overtime. We beat them by 1, and we beat it. And we actually won by 1 point against the Sixers in Toronto in that overtime game this season. But this was a hit job that happened, but wasn't necessary because they didn't need to do it to beat us. But they showed their hand that they were doing it. It was kind of like that. It's like, oh, okay, see, Raptors, even if you had played perfect, even if you played better and you were in the driver's seat, the refs were going to try and screw you over too at the end of the game. That's why you guys have to be so perfect. That's why you guys have to be at the highest level, because it's not only you're playing the other team, you might be playing the refs. And we were last night for sure. Shaq Lindsay saying, don't get mad at BI. He got us this far, but he ain't no Kawhi. Yeah, that's the thing that sucks. I mean, we shouldn't be comparing him to Kawhi Leonard, I guess. But then again, is Kawhi Leonard himself on the Clippers at this point like he was in Toronto? That's why I say over and over again, the best year Kawhi Leonard ever had in his NBA career was in Toronto. And they can say he had a better year this year or this, that. Well, did he? No, he's not in the playoffs right now. So how the fuck did he have a better year this year than he did in 2019? Maybe some of his stats are better, but that's it, man. Yeah, Reggie's saying he loves being in LA. If he does want out, it's probably to be the Lakers' LeBron replacement. Yeah, whatever it is, I don't care. I don't want Kawhi to get anything that he wants anymore. In some ways, he's already gotten a whole bunch of things he wants, and it's been proven that what he wants is failure, because it is going to be failure. That's what it is right there. That's interesting. Interesting. Fiercely saying this. As much as I would love it, this year is not about winning the chip. It was to prove the doubters wrong and get out of the play-in. We made it to playoffs, so I'm good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset about any of the outcomes that happen with this. If we get swept, which I don't think is going to happen, guys, I'm still going to be like, yeah, we kicked ass. We made the playoffs this year. Once again, we've done a successful year no matter what. And we're a young core, and we just got to learn some tough lessons in the postseason right now. That's the whole phase right now, is your young core, get your taste, understand what this is, and now you start training with that in mind going forward, and you do better in the offseason, and you do better next season as far as practicing it. That's the whole key right here. That's the whole key right here. That's right. Fiercely saying way too many turnovers yesterday. My goodness. Yeah. J.O. saying I'm rooting for BI to turn around so you guys can make the series interesting. Yeah, I hope so too. I think we can do it still. You know how our crowd is, Philly fan. You know how it is in Toronto. And we will be bringing that energy on Thursday and Sunday. And hopefully that'll help the Raptors win the games. Hopefully that'll help them. Man, I shouldn't go to the game on Sunday. I don't have no money. But in some ways, I'm like, Lex, if they're like down and they're facing elimination, maybe you should go down there on a Sunday afternoon at 1:00 and root for them in game 4. Man, I'm really on the fence about this. It'd be last minute. I know I pay a heavy price probably. And I probably wouldn't be able to sit where I normally sit because it's probably going to be way too expensive. I'm going to have to think about this. I might need to go. Just to be there for them. Raptors Champs is saying you can't have a high-speed team with a low-speed player. I would also like Barnes to take over the entire game and stop worrying about BI getting his shots. Yeah. In some ways, I feel like that's a little bit of what it is. It's a waste of time. That Brandon's possessions and his ability to turn the ball over in really dumb ways that are unforced is really hurting our momentum. And that's why I compare last night's game to the game in New Orleans, where it's just like, is this dude even trying? Is he American double agent to ruin the Raptors from the inside? I mean, we start wondering about this kind of shit because he plays so bad, right? Smooth saying Leonard is all about LA. Yeah, who cares? In some ways, Kawhi, you're an idiot. You left the championship on the table in Toronto, you dumbass. That's your damn fault. Raptors champ saying Harden is older and wiser. He's more dangerous today. He's very methodical. The way he threatens with the lob and the way he has the little floater. And, he's very analytical. And he's like that. And in some ways, he is probably the best Harden he's ever been right now on the Cavs. And this may very well be true that this is his best chance to try and win a championship in his whole entire career, the team he's on right now. But I don't want that for them. And honestly, and people can see this too, the Cavs aren't that good. Honestly, they are lucky that we shot ourselves in the foot because we have their number and we should have ran all over them like we did in the regular season. It's just that we're idiots in the postseason right now. And honestly, the Cavs aren't that good. They will get beat by the other Eastern teams on their way through the playoffs. They are not good enough to win the championship. I'm going to say that right now. They have issues with certain things that are going to get exploited by a better team than us. And I know that will happen before the end of the playoffs. If I see them in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked to see the Cavs get past the second round, honestly, whoever they're going to play, if we're not going to beat them in the first round. You know what I'm saying? Seymour saying it's a no-brainer, no IQ, no win. Yeah, I don't know about that. We could find ways to win without IQ. We could have won last night. Uji Bougie saying, again, weird vibes. Team played harder but got beat in the same spot, sadly. They did play harder, but, they could also say, and RJ kind of said it after the game, the Cavs still played harder than us overall. And it's just dumb stuff like chasing after loose balls, chasing after rebounds. It's, closing out on defense. It's all those kind of little moves. Oh, I got an Acadian fly catcher. Hello, Acadian fly catcher. You going to catch some flies for me? Eat all the mosquitoes, all the little baby mosquito eggs. Yeah, that's why I employ you. It's awesome. I love birds. They're awesome. Smooth saying, I just don't want to sweep. No sweep. I'm with you on that. Shaq Lindsay saying, I love Shed, but damn, make a shot. This summer, he needs to work on his shot. That will limit his turnovers. Yeah, he needs to work on his turnovers first. The shot is something that'll come around, but the work with the ball and just really being smart with decision-making is the main thing I want him to work on. Seriously. Kareem saying, if Quickly is out, I want Scotty to carry the ball up. He makes good decisions, creates mismatches, and it will get him involved early and often. Our backs are against the wall. Time to do whatever it takes. They are. And, we're not we don't want to lose, like RJ said, but also at the same time, once again, it's the playoffs. The home team called serve. And when you get to your home, you better win. That's what I'm saying. So we got to look at that. Trevor's saying that RJ is the first Canadian player in Raptors history to have back-to-back 20-plus point games and playoff games. I love this because in some ways he's the only guy who's ever been that good to do this that's been Canadian on our team. So, I mean, this is a cool stat, but in some ways also it's like he's the Star Trek Enterprise. He's going where no man has gone before. So it's kind of like this is going to happen. It's going to happen. Nako's saying we're hobbled. CMB was the right choice. Yeah, that's fine. Smooth saying Jakob looked awful last night. Terrible. He had his moments, but yeah, you're right. In some ways, he wasn't totally right. Fiercey's clapping for RJ. Shaq Lindsay saying, yeah, I'm good too, Fiercey. This is a great experience for our young talent on our team. This is also a great opportunity for Bobby, who is now calling the shots, to make adjustments to our roster in the offseason. Yep. And yep. I'm glad that you guys are with it. The longtime Raptor freaks understand the assignment, and they're not overreacting and crashing out. And I think overall, Raptors Nation's been pretty smart about this in general. That, you know, some people are being weird, but most people are kind of like seeing it with the right perspective of the age group. And that's the thing we got to talk about. Jason Smith's back in the chat. Good morning, Jason. What are we drafting this year based on our current situation? Well, Trevor said this last night in the Discord, and I agree with him, that we still need to go and draft size. I'm just sick of this. I feel like there's never enough size in the cupboard, in the pantry for the Raptors, that we need to have a more depth at size. And I feel like we had it kind of good this year, but I'm always like the kind of person that you want to keep it sustainable and replenish it. So like a garden, you want to plant crops staggered from each other. Well, we need to have a big man project like a Shamshay before, or a Koloko, that's coming up in the ranks. And I believe that's what I would like to do. Now, I don't know if the center prospects for this year are very good like they were last year. They were phenomenal last year. And that's why I felt like that second round pick we spent on Elijah Martin should have been spent on a center, like possibly Niederhauser or somebody like that. Either way, Bobby's going to be the guy who decides it. And they have shown in the past they don't want to have a history of drafting a big, because bigs can be busts more often. And sometimes the investment into bigs isn't worth it because they take so long and they don't go anywhere. So I think that the philosophy that Ujiri and Webster have had over this time that they've been in charge, and, you know, Ujiri before, is that, like, let's not waste time on projects unless they're really solid projects like Shamshay and Koloko. But obviously we saw what happened with them. So I don't know. We'll have to see if they continue to draft, because we did see a problem with Colin and the philosophy of drafting Colin at the spot we did last year. And this was my critique of drafting Colin, is he's too short. And we saw Jared Allen going right over him in the game last night. So as much as y'all say the switch for Murray-Boyles from Pirtle, it wasn't totally good, because there was times where the height of Jared Allen was beating Colin Murray-Boyles last night. And that's the stuff where Yak would do better. And that's the thing. When they drafted Colin, I was like, he's undersized. This is going to be a problem to a degree. But he makes up for it with his strength and his ability right away as a player to play in the NBA. But still, he doesn't have the height to totally deal with Jared Allen. And you saw that last night, just as much as Shed doesn't have the height to deal with Harden. Colin doesn't have the height to deal with Jared Allen to a degree. And that's part of it. So I don't like drafting undersized guys, but if they're supremely talented, like Colin Murray-Boyles, I can get used to it. But I don't like it overall. And the Raptors have drafted undersized for a long, long time. You can make the argument that Jacoby Walters is an undersized player they drafted. So let's see. Randolph is here. Good morning, Randolph. Blessings, beloved Raptor freaks family. The Holy Spirit dwells in clean, pure hearts. A pure heart produces genuine flow, kindness, faith, and forgiveness, led by the Holy Spirit. I love that. That's a beautiful words of wisdom. I love that. Blessings to the Phillips family and all the Raptor freak families. Have a pure heart, guys. Have a pure heart. And, like Seymour was saying earlier, more and more people, some people are just out for themselves. In some ways, you got to do that for survival. But if you can have kindness in your heart and you can look out for each other in certain ways, that's important too. Community matters, and staying in bonds of community and being able to look out for each other, and even some safety nets to help each other when things are in bad places. That's so important. And we can't forget that stuff. In some ways, they want to design it so that we're all out for ourselves and selfish and cutthroat. And honestly, the correct action is to go in the ways of Christ and to extend the table longer, to help more, and to look out for more for each other. That is true Christianity. That is true work of God. And anybody who says that they're, I'm working for God by making my bank account bigger and bigger and helping my family, well, you're not. In some ways, you're for God money, and God money isn't the true God. So make sure you're not following God money and basing most of your life decisions on just the bottom line, and start making decisions on humanity and connection and what's right and what what you were taught and what's innately in your spirit that because a pure heart will show you what that is. And Randolph knows. That's right. That's right. Do something like what Seymour did. Take some cans downtown to some people and help them out. Go out of your way to help somebody today. How about that? That's right. Blessings to both our RJs, Randolph and RJ Barrett. I like that. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Wow. Lots of comments. I don't know why I'm so choppy today. I'm hoping that it's not bothering you guys and that you guys can still watch me, because it seems like this stream's okay, but it is being a little bit choppy and weird. I'm going to try and work through everything. I know we have a lot to talk about. And if I do 3 hours, I don't care, because it is an important reaction stream. Shaq Lindsay saying there's no doubt that we will be drafting a center. I don't know if there is a doubt on that. When we say this every year and then they don't do it and we're let down. So I don't know if there's no doubt. I don't know if we can say this, Shaq Lindsay. I hope that we get a center, but knowing them and how they do things and the track record, I don't know if this will happen. Honestly, I think that they like to do things like what they did with Sandro. They like to pick somebody up who's a few years in and is more ready to help out than, have projects and wait on them for like 2 or 3 years. And then sometimes they don't work out and then it was a waste of time. I think that's what it is. G saying this, CJ McCollum was an underrated pickup for the young Hawks. Experienced, composed vet. Our talented Raptors lack the maturity and experience. However, these games will help them tremendously. Harden has choked many playoffs to get to this point. Raptors making the playoffs is huge for their future. In a few years, they will look so much better in the playoffs. They could even look better next year. They could. That's how quick they are. In some ways, they had no idea. They're getting the taste, and now they have the idea, but they have to understand there's levels to this even further than this one, and that this is like level 1, and the levels get harder each round of the playoffs. So it's like, do you guys want to do the stair steps every year and bump your head? Or do you want to try and learn that you really have to play perfect basketball and play absolutely the best ethical basketball to be successful in this league? Seriously, that's what it is right there. Yeah, Smooth saying Bo Brichette's dad, Dante, fell out of favor with the Blue Jays. He was a member of the coaching staff a few years back. Yeah, I kind of remember that. I'm not really worried about this. I mean, we were worried about Bo Bichette leaving, and we thought it was highly likely. Is any one player that important? Just because he was on the team and people kind of liked him because he was bonded with Vlad Jr.? Is that it? Is that what it is? No, it's sports, and people have to leave all the time. We know that. We know that, Let's see. Fiercely saying, great point from G. We need experience. Garrett Temple is the vet, but he doesn't play as much as Harden. Yeah, that's for sure. I believe Jakob is the second oldest player, but he has not been exposed to playoffs with the Spurs. Jakob played in the playoffs with the Spurs in his first year on the Spurs, and he played 2 years on the playoffs with the Raptors as our backup center behind Jonas. So he does have some playoff experience from that. But the thing with Jakob is, and this is also true for Brandon, they're not vocal leaders. They're not the kind of guys that are going to be out in front of everybody kind of saying some speeches. They're just not those guys. Scotty's that guy. RJ can be like that. Shed would be like that. Temple can be like that. But Yak's just not naturally an outspoken leader. He can be, though. Don't get me wrong. And there have been times when Yak has been in the locker room setting things straight with the players. Trust me. In the time he's been back on the Raptors since coming back from San Antonio. But it's not natural for him, and it's not really his natural role. But in some ways, maybe he does need to do this more and be more in that role. I mean, Scotty really is the figurehead, and he does a good job. You saw Scott last night. He looked like a coach the way he was yelling at them on the sideline and walking up and down the sideline and pointing stuff out and yelling at the guys to get in the right positions. He really did look like he should be a coach after he's done, the way he was acting on the sideline when he was out last night. So I don't know. In some ways, I would like Brandon to be a more vocal leader than Yak, because in some ways he has the experience, he has the level of talent, and he needs to be kind of throwing his weight around more, like Paul Pierce is daring him to. Seriously, he needs to do that. He needs to do that. Yeah. Josh Monroe saying the teams as a collective has a lot of heart, but their mind has to be sharper. They have to feel like every game is a must win. It's not even every game. They have to feel like every possession is a very sacred, delicate thing that they have to carry like an egg, like an uncooked egg that could shatter. It's like they have to really value every second, every possession, every shot, everything about it all. And that's where the best teams have excellence. That's where it happens. But if you're going to make unforced turnovers that should have been cleaned up in the middle of the season, that shouldn't have been even happening in the last 2 months of the season. See, in some ways, I should have realized this, that after the All-Star game, we had a bunch of games that we played horrible and trashy, and at the time of the year where we shouldn't, and that we weren't really serious enough to be in the playoffs, to play serious enough to the level that we need to do, because we weren't showing it in the regular season games in the last 2 months. There were a lot of games we lost that we shouldn't have, and there were games that we should have competed better. This is why I was so upset that Sunday with the Celtics, when we lost the Celtics the last time we played them in the season, because that was an opportunity for them to show the level of excellence that it takes in the playoffs against a very high level team, and they failed that assignment. And then I should have took that as like, oh man, they're not going to be ready for the playoffs. But we didn't know. So we were coming into them. We're kind of like, you know what? I hope they're ready. Maybe they could be. There's a range of the Raptors being a failure or success, and somewhere in there, they're going to land in the middle. And well, they're closer to being a failure than a success right now, where they're landing on the range of their performance ability and what they can do, which sucks. It sucks. They could have been higher up. Smooth saying a lot of the guys use their excuse that they're not into politics and are friends with said person. PK Subban is another just like that. Evander Kane, Tristan Thompson, all like that as well. 50 Cent, Nicki Minaj, Sage Steele, Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, in some ways, like, look, there's a toxic political entity in this world right now that's in right-wing politics that is totalitarian dictatorship leaning. And with the rise of technology, of surveillance technology, data centers, drones, more ICE and all this stuff, it's a scary time, because that's the stuff. It's like, look, you vote for the people that you want freedom with, and the people that are not freedom are the right-wing MAGA PC up here in Canada that are going to take away our rights, and they're going to do things behind our backs, and they're going to do things that, as a business, like Trump does with his family, to make money for himself through the government. And Ford's doing the same thing here in Ontario. So it's like, we can say, oh, they're both really bad, but that's bullshit. One side is absolutely fascist and wants to start a surveillance state and a police state, honestly, where people can be dragged from their houses and taken to jail just for their ideals and beliefs. Like, that's not freedom. That's not freedom to choose. And that's why, in some ways, that party and that kind of energy needs to be eradicated and needs to be stopped, because that's not freedom. And in some ways, we got to all be aware of this, because this could be turned really dark in a bad way if we don't stand up for our rights to have freedom of speech, freedom to protest, freedom of press, freedom of newscasters to say what they're supposed to say. They've already taken that away in the United States, as far as, the things that happened with Colbert and Kimmel, and the consolidation of all the media being under certain umbrellas of very fascist people that want to control the narrative. I'm just saying, y'all, if we want to stay free, we have to be very much solid with our convictions, and we need to stand up to it. And we cannot make concessions in small ways unspoken to those powers without us even getting to decide. That's why we have to fight against data centers. That's why we have to fight against increases in police budgets and prisons, because they're going to not just use these on immigrants at some point. They're going to want to put anybody in there, especially trans people and people that don't agree with them. They're going to want to put in there too. So we don't want to get to that point. And I'm very proud and happy to be Canadian and live on this side of the border. And I feel like in some ways, the stuff that happens wrong, if it does, will happen in the US first. And in some ways, it'll be once again a really good bad example for what we don't want to happen here in Canada. So hopefully the American people can stay strong and be true patriots, like the patriots that did all the great things in the history of the United States to get that democracy and freedom. They have to fight for their freedom and democracy again. And this time it's against their own government, which is crazy to me. It's crazy to me that it's gotten to this point. It's crazy. Medved Ted saying, I'm glad we played to our principles for the most part. We were better on defense and in transition compared to game one. This is true. Unfortunate that BI missed shots, but Darko seemed confident he will bounce back. Yeah, I'm really happy about the team rallying around Brandon. There's no finger pointing. And even if Brandon kind of was a little weird with his interview after game one, RJ said, look, we know you are you, and we trust you, and we believe in you, man. Scotty's saying the same thing in his post-game interview, just like Darko. It's like, we trust Brandon. We know he's going to show up. We know he's going to be there. We know he's going to do what he has to do. We know he will. And I like that. That's the whole front from the whole team. Encouragement and support for BI, even though, he let them down. Let's just be honest. He let them down yesterday. But the guys are being comforting and encouraging, because they know to be the best Raptors, we need Brandon Ingram to get out of the mud and play right. And, RJ talking to him in the middle of the game, just keep going, man. We trust you. We believe in you. You can do this. That's the right action from his teammates and his coach. That's his right action. Yeah, let's go, Seymour. Yeah, it's always fun to get a call from the sheriff. The Cool Cat's here also. Good morning, Raptor Free crew. We're getting better. Young team will learn a lot about playoff ball. It's different. There you go. Cool Cat's exactly right. Wishing only the best energy and love and peace and happiness and vibes from Miss Cool Cat. That's right. Seymour's saying hi to Eye Candy. And Seymour's saying, good point, Smooth, with the PK reference. Cool Cat saying, Marina's dad is funny. He saw her YouTube clip. Yeah, I saw your comment in there too. Yeah, I mean, he's probably a nice guy, but that's trolling, driving around in Ontario with a Los Angeles Dodgers hat on your head. That's trolling, Mr. Mabry. I'm sorry, that is. Smooth saying this, willful ignorance about Toronto and Canada when you're living in New Jersey? Ridiculous. Stupid idiot. No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, that's what they're conditioned down there. You got to understand, I went through it when I was a kid. I sat in class in elementary school, and people asked me about igloos and polar bears and Michael J. Fox and all kinds of stupid ass questions about Canada because of the stupid stuff that they think down there. And I play into it. Yeah, every time I go to get the paper for my family at the end of the driveway, I have to fight a polar bear because that's how Canada is. I would play with it when I was little, but it's dumb. It's conditioning. Once again, they're conditioned to think America's shit don't stink and it's number one, and every other country is weird. And they have to characterize it like they're WWE villains from the 80s, each country. Oh, Iran's just like the Iron Sheik. Russia's just like Nikolai Volkov. Canada's just like this. And, they caricaturize all these countries like Australia, Mexico, they have this whole like stereotype shit. And well, that's just all this is just playing into the stereotypes about Canada. And they do it to all the countries around the world. Let's just put it that way. England, France, Spain, they do it to all of them. And it's just part of it is like an inferiority complex by the Americans to put down everybody to feel like they're elevating themselves. And it's such a dumb energy in some ways. It's such a dumb energy. It's so dumb. Yeah. Let's see. Fiercely saying this may be considered a silly comment, but all players now have to obtain passports due to tempo. Europeans are covered, but you would be surprised how many U.S. players did not have their passports as they only competed in the States. My daughter's coach had issues chasing his AAU players to get Canadian passports to play in the U.S. Yeah, that actually happened with Elijah Martin. Famously last summer didn't have his passport and thought he could come to Toronto without a passport and he was delayed coming in after getting drafted by us because they had to fast track a passport for Elijah Martin so he could join the Raptors last summer. So in some ways, it was like I think he didn't come across to Canada before summer league because he hadn't gotten it yet. But then he was with us at Las Vegas for summer league, and then he got it worked out, and then boom, all of a sudden, yeah, he can come to Canada then. But he talked about it on his channel and himself. It's like I didn't realize I needed a passport to come to Canada. Then I got one at the last minute right after I got drafted by the Raptors. So yeah, this happened with Elijah Martin. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Smooth saying this. I used to tolerate this stuff a long time ago, but now, nope, no time with those who are willfully ignorant, no matter who you are. Yeah, in some ways, it's like the whole thing is like, yeah, you can tell me you're one thing, but your actions and your words will say another, and I will just deem you that way. You can portray yourself as this, but if you're being an asshole on the down low, I'm a nice guy. I really respect Canada, but then you're saying stuff on the other side that contradicts that, then I'm going to be like, yeah, no, you're not who you say you are. You are your actions and your words. And I think that that's a good way for everybody to live in their own lives on whatever topic. It's like, don't take people for what they say or portray themselves as. Go by their actions and their words. And that's really helpful in relationships. Trust me. It's really, really, yeah, really, really, yeah. Let's see. Subban is vocal about it. Yeah, I don't even know the stuff about PK. I don't really. Trevor's saying Colin played a very good game last night as a rookie in the playoffs. For sure. He's done very well so far. And that's expected. He's been this way the whole season, really. Reggie's saying people speak truth is the form of joking around. I don't like that shit. I know that's the same thing too. That's why I never liked sarcastic people. It's because honestly, you're saying this and you're trying to say you're sarcastic, but no, you still said it. And you still got the opportunity for those words to come out of your mouth. I'm just joking. Don't be so thin-skinned. Ha ha ha. No, that's fucking gaslighting on the down low. That's fucking gaslighting on the down low. That's why I always tell people, say what you mean and mean what you say. And don't pussyfoot around. If you're going to be this way, then own it. Seriously, don't say this and contradict yourself and then be, no, but I'm saying I'm this. That's what I'm saying. Actions and words speak louder than your profession of what you are. It's exactly like that. That's right. Yeah. Let's see. You're referring to Mabry's dad. Well, what he's not going to be playing for the tempo. And in some ways, Marina seems like she really does like Toronto so far. So we're just going to have to see. I don't want us to be overly sensitive about this stuff to a degree. I know I went off on Brittany a little bit 2 days ago about the weather thing. But in some ways, it's just like I'm just trying to be helpful so that they don't step in it. And maybe this is part of what I was saying is like, Teresa, make it known to your players that in some ways they're playing in Canada and we're sensitive to this shit. And they don't need to make the same mistakes early Raptors did in their expansion years with the tempo, because the mistakes have been made in the past and you can learn from them and avoid them with this. Just think of it as your big brother was an idiot and made a bunch of mistakes, just like Fred VanVleet's big brother. And he gave you a good, bad example so that you don't have to follow and make those same mistakes. Because, that's kind of what you could do with the Raptors in their expansion years is look at what they did and made mistakes with. And you could avoid a lot of stupid shit by understanding those lessons without making them yourself, is what I would say, Teresa Resch. Fred VanVleet's appearance on Out the Mud podcast was fantastic, guys. They totally mischaracterized Fred's opinions on Toronto and the Raptors with that one little blurb that he couldn't wait to get out of Toronto so fast enough. Yeah, he couldn't wait to get that money is what it was. He couldn't wait to get $40 million a year is what it was. That's what he was saying. It wasn't about the Raptors or Masai or anything. In fact, he said amazing things about Masai Ujiri in that podcast. Tony Allen, very much glowing about Masai too. And he said, man, I love Masai. I think Masai is amazing. And Fred said basically this, Masai used to piss me off. And this is why. Because he used to always make me have to have goals. And he wouldn't pay me until I got those goals. And I was always pissed at him. It's like, man, why do you do this? I've seen other people around the league that just get guaranteed money. And they just give him the money. And they just go and play. But no, Masai did this very on purpose with Fred VanVleet. When Fred was coming up through our system as a 10-day contract, then to a two-way, to a G League player, to a bench player, to a starter for us, Every step of the way with the contracts, Masai basically set him straight up. This is what Fred said. And he said, I respect Masai for this so much. He basically told Fred straight up, it's like, I'm not going to pay you this money until you make this accomplishment, this goal. And then I'll reward you with this. And he would be pissing Fred off. But he also realizes in hindsight that that was part of the reason why he became the player he became, and even becoming an all-star and even becoming a player that made this money. So he can thank Masai Ujiri for this, the way that he laid his contracts in front of him like a carrot in front of a mule to go and lead him towards his success and him getting better as a player. In some ways, Masai was smart. He knew what motivated Fred to do that. And Fred may not have liked it at the time. And he'd be like, man, I want the guaranteed money. But no, he kept you on his toes, on your toes. And you kept after it because of that, because you had the goal, Fred. And he understood that. So, you know, and sometimes it's like the other thing he said about Masai is Masai's cutthroat, man. Masai's serious. Masai is an ultimate competitor. Masai is somebody that you don't mess with, somebody who's really, really going all out for the Raptors. And that's the biggest loss of Masai being gone, is that he's a driving force for competition and excellence. And his mindset's the same as me. We are number one. We are the most important. And we do things that's right for the Raptors. And we don't give a shit if they shadow us or look down on us or look at us as a second-class NBA team or anything like that. No, we are premium in our own heads, and we are doing what we need to do in our self-respect to carry our brand and our name and our team to the highest levels. And that was quality control by Masai Ujiri. And that's why he was so important. In some ways, his presence and his energy isn't with the Raptors anymore, but Bobby gets that whole aspect of that competitive mentality, and he has it in him too. But it manifests in a different way than it does with Ujiri. And that's the thing, man. That's why I would say in Masai we trust, because as long as Masai was around our team, I knew there was a quality control of ultimate competition at the top, at the person in charge. And that's something that hopefully we still have, even with Bobby in charge. But that's something that we do miss, because Masai was a driving force to excellence. And I love that interview with Fred. Fred goes into detail about his early life with his brothers and his father's death. He talks about living in the white community with his mom, and then her meeting his stepdad and moving back to the black community, and how that was in Rockford as far as that switch. He talked about loyalty he had for his friends in his city and where he was from, instead of going to take contracts and going to other schools where he could have gone somewhere else and got more spotlight. He stayed with his people and he stayed loyal, and he went that way. Part of the reason why he went to Wichita State instead of Colorado State was because Colorado State wouldn't give a contract to one of his partners, his buddies, and let him play with him. So he went to Wichita State. So there's a lot of loyalty and a lot of I fuck with my people and I stick with my people because my people are my people with Fred VanVleet. And that's the way he is. And he's that way for us still on the download with the Raptors. There was a lot of respect put on the Raptors championship on that Out the Mud podcast with Zach Randolph and Tony Allen and Fred VanVleet. So check it out. It's almost 2 hours. It's a great discussion. It's a really in-depth basketball discussion if you catch all the lingo, as far as they're talking about play sets and how the game has changed since when Zach and Tony played and now how it is now. And man, it's a very it's not like a polished podcast. They're just speaking and kicking it like they would, unguarded, like Fred's show. But I highly recommend it. And seriously, there's nothing Fred's doing in there that's anti-Raptors. There's nothing Fred is saying that is not honoring the legacy of his championship and being on the championship team with the Raptors. And kudos to Tony Allen and Zach Randolph for bringing up the G League experience on the Raptors 905 for Fred and making it known, as I told Sarge and the dumbasses on the Unguarded podcast in the comment section, Fred is a 2-time Raptors champion. And that is a G League champion along with an NBA champion. And he had really funny stories about Stackhouse. He was talking about Coach Stackhouse. Fred was talking about Stackhouse on this show. He said that Stackhouse is so serious. And he's like, man, he'd be like, because like Fred was like, I don't want to be in G League. I hate being in G League. I want to go off and just take over and be such a badass that they won't let me play down here anymore. They'll make me play in the NBA. He had that mentality. But Stackhouse was in the way. Stackhouse is like, fuck you, Fred. You ain't going to do this. You can't be all for yourself. You have to play my style and be on the team and do it the right way. So Fred had to conform to Jerry Stackhouse on the G League team and play the way Jerry was demanding him to. And that was really good for him, actually. And that's part of the reason why they won the G League championship. But yeah, those were some good stories. I love hearing Fred's stories about being on the G League team with Pascal and Norman and Jakob and DeLon, and talking about those days, because we don't hear about Fred's G League experience with the 905 very often in interviews. So I appreciated Tony Allen and Zach Randolph for going through each of the sections of Fred's career and not skipping over the G League stuff that he did in Raptors 905. That was good. That was good stuff. Highly recommend that. And there's nothing negative in there that Raptors fans should be pissed off about towards Fred. If anything, they should thank the Out the Mud guys for giving him a good forum. And mainstream NBA audience will hear this stuff, and it's good stuff. It's all good stuff for our team. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, let's see. All right, let's see. Raptors Champs is saying, BI, can you do this with the pressures on? That is exactly what Bobby is watching. No one is safe. That's what I'm saying. I mean, he's a good trade piece. In some ways, I'm telling you, this is a big, huge part of our salary cap. And we, like I said, I've likened him to a fixer-upper. It's like you buy a house, it's in a bad shape, you fix it up, and you flip it, and you make a profit off of it. In some ways, Brandon was in a bad place in New Orleans. We got him over here, and now he's an all-star this year. And in some ways, his value is up higher than when we got him. So in some ways, I hate this, Brandon. You don't like what I'm saying, Brandon Ingram? Well, go prove that you need to be on the Raptors still by playing at a high level and make it so that we can't not want to keep you on this team. That's basically it right there, my guy. You control your own destiny. You like being in Toronto? You like playing for Darko? You like playing with Scotty? Well, kick some ass so that it's just not even a thought that we would even move you. But if it's like this, yeah, we start to sink in with like, what could we get for Brandon Ingram in the offseason in a trade? What could we get? That's what we start thinking when it's like this, right? We start thinking that way. And, I don't mind people laying off of RJ Barrett and stop talking about trading him all the time. I like this new development that Raptors fans are finally waking up and seeing, yeah, he's the truth. And we need RJ, heart and soul. Man that does whatever it takes, putting his body on the line for Canada and for the Toronto Raptors. I like that. I like that. Yeah. G saying that Scotty was 5th in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Let's do the straight goods on Canadian goods. Yesterday was 420. So I'm going to do straight goods on Canadian goods weed. This is Tweed is what it's called. Tweed is from Kincardine, Ontario. Tweed's a hybrid greenhouse, combines the consistent conditions of an indoor grow with an adaptable ceiling that gives a boost of natural sun to the bud in its clay-borne pre-rolls. So yeah, straight goods on Canadian goods. Get Canadian weed. It's Tweed. You can buy this strain at your local cannabis stores here in Ontario. So yeah, Tweed weed. Straight goods on Canadian goods. It's the green. There you go. There you go. Kaloy saying that was such a winnable game last night. Oh, yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, it was. They're going to wish they had that back. That's right. Mitchell and Harden playing unreal, and we were playing them BI less, no 7-footer, and it was almost there. Yeah, I don't know what you meant there. They admitted it yesterday, Harden and Mitchell, in the post-game conference, that they were making shots that were kind of lucky on some of them. Like, we were guarding them up really well, but they were making moon shots and hitting some crazy ass shit. And I even thought that, like, when Mitchell missed the first shot in the fourth quarter, I was like, okay, is this finally going to be where they are cold and they're not making their shots? Because to be honest, Donovan and James have been pretty much on this whole series so far, but they're not always on. That's the thing. There's usually a balance of them making their shots and them not making them shots, but they've been pretty consistently on so far in this series. And it's not totally that we've not guarded them well. It's that they're very high level elite scorers that are scoring against good defense, and they're on right now. But at some point, you've got to figure with the law of averages that their shooting percentage is going to cool off, and they're not going to shoot as well in some of these games coming up. And it may very well coincide with being at Scotiabank Arena. So that's what we can hope for. In some ways, they've gone above and beyond with their shooting percentages. They don't normally shoot this well, both of them. And have both of them going off at the same time, that's a luxury for the Cavs right there. And honestly, if both of them don't go off last night, along with Evan Mobley, they don't win this game last night. They don't. They needed all three of those superstars to be a three-prong attack, and because nobody else was doing enough to help them otherwise. So I'm just saying that's got to balance out at some point, right? That's got to balance out. Randolph saying, Lex, Billy Donovan is exiting as head coach of the Chicago Bulls after 6 seasons, sources tell ESPN. Well, this is very weird because the Reinsdorfs just publicly endorsed Billy staying on, and that they said when they hired the new GM, since they fired the GM office at the end of the season just now, they have to endorse Billy Donovan to be the coach still because they really like Billy Donovan. But you know what? I get the feeling that this is Billy Donovan saying he just wants to step away. And this isn't even something that has to do with the Reinsdorfs or the Chicago Bulls franchise, that it's more like Billy Donovan is saying, you know what? I'm spinning my wheels here. I don't feel like this is the right place for me professionally. Who knows? Maybe somebody's got another job for him lined up somewhere else that's much more attractive to him after his years being on the Bulls and what he's been doing there. So that's interesting. I'll bet you that was a decision by Billy Donovan himself. It may have had something to do with his father dying recently too. So who knows? It could have something to do with like, you know what? I want to be closer to certain people in my family, because my dad just passed. And I'm maybe looking for my next job in another place that's near all that. That could be what it is. That could be what it is. Chloe said, I'm sorry, but I'm off the BI train. He does not unlock Barnes, and there's a significant difference in Barnes when BI is not there. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's not like, let's not make any strong conclusions forever like that. Let's just kind of be open to the change of possibilities, but let's not just concretely say, I decree this is it. Because at times I've wondered whether Barnes and Brandon are a good fit with each other and whether they play off each other correctly. There's been a couple of signs that it's okay. But, honestly, if you really think about the whole entire season, Barnes and Brandon kind of work independent of each other in games. They don't really interact with each other. They really don't. It's either set up Brandon somewhere. Is Scotty getting the passes into Brandon for his shots? No, there's usually somebody else setting him up, and vice versa. How often is it looking like Brandon's setting up Scotty for anything? So maybe there is some weird thing. We can honestly say Barrett and Barnes absolutely have cohesion and work off each other in all kinds of different ways, whether it's transition or the half court. It's often Scotty's delighted by an RJ cut to the basket, and it's an easy pass to him for a layup, But where's that interaction and that natural, deriving of good offense from a Scotty and Brandon interaction is what I'm asking right now. That's what I'm wondering right now. Kaz is saying good morning. Good morning to you, Kaz. Trucker Kaz in the chat. That's right. Raptors champ saying salute to RJ for protecting Barnes from Tyson stepping over him. Yes. There was another similarity to what happened in New Orleans. Somebody tried to punk one of our guys by stepping over them, but RJ happened to be on the court this time, and we saw the proper response. And I love it that the refs, they could have called something stupid, unfair towards RJ for bumping Jalen Tyson, but they didn't in the end. And they understood what that was all about. James Capers, kudos to you on that one. Some of the other calls were absolutely horrible. But on this one, the no call and not making a bigger deal out of RJ running over and kind of bumping Jalen Tyson away from him. Yeah. Good stuff. And RJ, that's exactly it. And honestly, that's another thing that shows Raptors Nation why we need to keep RJ on our team. Because I say this all the time. He's quality control. He's quality control for respect for our team and quality control for our team playing as hard as they can to do what they got to do to try and get back in the game. Because when we're in a bad place, who's consistently still scoring? Who's consistently still playing at a high level, running after rebounds and doing all kinds of crazy stuff when we're in a bad place? It's RJ Barrett. That's it right there. And yeah, kudos to him for this for sure. And I'm glad you brought it up, Raptors champs. I might have forgot to bring up that whole little incident that happened there. Yeah, Jalen Tyson's an annoying guy. He's a very annoying guy. G saying BI is going to have a great game. Three. Okay, I hope so. I hope so. Seymour saying 3 points in 38 minutes. My goodness. Yeah, that's Shed, and unfortunately, that's a starting, not a starting point guard. That's a backup. Raptors champ saying Yak really just needs an offseason to get healthy because I still feel he's not 100%. Yeah, they're lying to us. They're probably saying this for competitive reasons. No, Yak is fine. My back feels fine. No, you're lying to us, Yaka Pirtle. You know you're lying. We can tell when you're moving quicker and when you're not. You looked really good like a month ago, but I think in just recent times you didn't look good. You know, that was dirty what James Harden did to Colin Murray-Boyles in that one play where Colin made the shot, but James hit him in the shoulder, and you saw him holding his shoulder. I better not see Colin on the injury list because James Harden picked a spot where he knew maybe a player had been injured recently, and he nailed him in that shoulder on that rebound. That was really bad. Really, really bad. But Colin's a young guy. He's tough. And we have 2 days off between games. So I'm sure he'll be fine. But that was dirty. That was dirty. James was dirty in that moment. And he may have known that knowledge. And that was very on purpose because the playoffs are like that. That's a whole other level of compete where, like, yeah, Kenny Atkinson is going to tell Jalen Tyson, yeah, get in Brandon's head and fuck him up and just try and get him in a fight so that he's out of the game in his head mentally, and then we'll be able to win better. That's all playoff kind of strategy kind of shit. And they definitely have been doing that with Jalen Tyson against guys like Brandon. And, you know, he even had some back and forth with Scotty last night a little bit at one point, you know. Let's see. Seymour saying a reporter asked some players, what's the percentage of players who truly love the game? And they said 35% of the league loves the game. Others, it's just the love of money. I can see that. I can see that. And that's why you want the guys that are really passionate and are doing it for the right reasons. People like Shed. Shed is like that. Shed is doing it for the right reasons. Jacoby's doing it for the right reasons. That's why you know, the Raptors were very successful with a lot of guys that they got, like Pascal and Kyle and Fred. You know, these are guys that are doing it for the right reasons. You know, that's what DeRozan code is. That's what separates the 35% that are for real with the DeRozan code from the 65% that aren't, that are just there like Ben Simmons. And I don't want Brandon to be in that 65%. I want him to be in the 35% we're talking about right here. Blackhawks brought the aliens to the chat with the Defensive Player of the Year, Victor Wembanyama. And Stargate is here. Good morning to Stargate. Neil's saying this, the bench brought it, and that was missing in game one. Kudos to the bench. Yeah, Scotty was very proud of the bench in his interview, saying that the bench really stepped up, and very, very proud of three guys in particular, Colin, Sandro, and Jacoby. Yeah, they were definitely a factor, and our bench did beat their bench. We won that category. That's for sure. That's right. Trevor's saying when everyone was talking about IQ to trade him, now y'all see how valuable he is to this team right now in the playoff games. Yeah, I mean, somebody said we get IQ back, we win. It's not as simple as that. And I know Stargate kind of got mad when I said that. It's more that it's like he can come back, but the problems we're having right now are with like just not taking care of the ball right. And that's the thing. We're going to have to really dedicate to that. Now, IQ could be very solid for this, and he could have a huge impact in helping us take care of the ball way better if he's available for game 3. It really sucks that he couldn't play last night. And I can tell quickly he's really annoyed by not playing. Like at the end of the game, you can tell he's kind of like, oh man, what am I doing? I should be out there because I need to help my team. That's got to be a really frustrating feeling. And who knows? Like he must be really hurt to not be able to play. Seriously, he must be really, really hurt. Either that or there's some sort of weird NBA protocol that forces guys to not be able to play on the download that we don't know about. And it's partly manipulation to like hurt the team from winning. I don't know. I don't want to get into conspiracy theory too much. Let's see. Kaloy saying it was really essential we reached the first round for Bobby. Now he has the data on who to keep and who to let go. Overall, this season is success. No, this was so important to avoid the play-in because honestly, I wouldn't have trusted the Raptors to get through the play-in because they aren't taking the right level of come at the games in the right way. They would have gone out and one and done. So it is really important that they got the full playoff experience of having a regular playoff seed. Because if they had been in the play-in, honestly, I would not have had much faith in them getting through the play-in, unfortunately, just because of the way they're tackling these games right now. They have to play way better. They really do. Let's see. Neil's saying this. We won the draft tiebreaker yesterday. Yay. That's right. They flipped the coin. And we're going to pick 19th. That's right. Yep. We went from 20 to 19. Did you want it on the NBA channel? Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, Hawks are now 20th pick. That's right. That's right. That's the right thing. Y'all limit your comments because I'm all like crazy right now, and I'm pretty deep into it. There's a lot of comments to go still, and I want to kind of try and wrap up in the next half hour. Let's see. Neil saying I will look for the clip and paste it in Discord. Yeah, we saw this. We already talked about it. Just it's he didn't see it. I guess is what he didn't see. Anyway, I'm gonna skip all that because you're just talking about the pick. By the way, we rebounded better last night. Darko is a coach that works off of corrections, so they have enough data to win the third game. Don't sweat it, people. Well, they better. They got to protect the North. They got to win at Scotiabank Arena. Seymour saying, question for Blackhawk. If the Hawks lose their series and we win ours, do they flip back and picks? No, it's all set. It's set in stone. We're going to pick 19th. They're going to pick 20th. The only reason why they did the coin flip is because we finished with the same exact record. And this is normal for the NBA. At the end of the season, teams that finish with the same record do coin flips to figure out the order in the draft. And that's all they did. So it's official. Yes, it's official. Let's see. The play-in finalized the postseason. Tankathon is showing the updated rankings as of yesterday. Okay, I don't use that site. Fiercey's got IQ on blast. Let's see. Blackhawks saying, for your information, Merez Johnson Jr. is 2 inches taller than Colin, and his defense is better than Mobo. There's potential in this draft. Okay. You used to be able to cross the border with your driver's license if you forgot your passport. 9/11 changed all that. Yeah. In some ways, I'm not trying to go to the States myself. I got to use a passport to go over there now. Let's see. Superfan Monique Lawrence is here. Good morning, Rat Free Crew. Not happy with this loss, but we move on. That's right. Good to see you, Mo, in the live this morning. I hope you do go to the game. You're talking about going to game 3 on Thursday. I think they need you down there. So please go to the game, Superfan Mo. Please go to the Scotiabank Arena on Thursday. Please go. Please. She's saying, please come back to IQ. Yes. Neil's saying this. Lex, if it's cold up here, then it's cold down there. You have frozen iguanas falling out of trees in Florida. Bottom line, seasons change. Winter used to phase out in the middle of March. Like I was saying yesterday, it seems like the weather's all shifted 1 month later, and that winter ends a month later, but so does summer. So it's all kind of even out. It's just all later. It's almost like there's something about the calendar that people don't talk about. There's actually supposed to be 13 months. Yeah. Like the old calendars, the ancient civilizations used to use had 13 months. And our calendar kind of wedges things in. And that's partly the reason why we have to have leap years and daylight saving time and all this kind of stuff. And over time, it would make sense that the seasons shift across the calendar if we're not taking into account the 13th month of the year, because there's supposed to be 13 months in a year, not 12. I don't know if y'all knew that. It's in the natural process of things. It actually is more around a 13-month calendar, which is kind of weird if you think about it. Let's see. Stargate saying at Blackhawk, you well know Morez will not be on the board at 19. Don't get these people's hopes up. You know how they are. Yeah, I'm not going to do any draft coverage until the day of. I don't think. You guys, we can do some looking at guys on the week of, but I don't care about the draft. Once again, I really don't. Keep hope alive. Okay, how about A-Day Mara? Mara will go before Morez. Steinbach, Lenenborg. Mara will go high. I don't know any of these people. I don't care. BI, get your shit straight. That's what Superfan Mo's telling to you right now, Brandon Ingram. Get your shit straight. That's right. I'm going to skip all the comments about the draft because I don't care about the draft, y'all. In some ways, this is not interesting to me. Stargate saying Dylan and comment for Brandon is an interesting potential proposal, but I'm not doing the tradeaholic thing. I only brought that up that day, that one day, because I look at Dylan Brooks as a winning type player that brings some of the intangibles that our team needs, like that edge. And I mean, if we think about how RJ plays at a higher level for Canada since he's come here, think about Dylan. And honestly, he's on a career arc right now where he's having his best year ever this past season. And he's all-star level almost. So it's not that far off to kind of think about doing this, even though some people say that's not worth it. Why would you do that? Well, in some ways, you get another defined kind of role on your team that actually has a really high upside on offense that nobody really gives credit enough for. And you also, if you can get that big man project that we were all kind of wanting in common, if it's not common, maybe it's somebody like Ryan Dunn or they have a Fleming. You could figure out that package. I don't know. This is all speculative, but it would be fun to have Dylan Brooks in a Raptors jersey. I would say that, yeah. Neil's saying every failure builds your offseason program and also gives you your idea what you should be looking for. Stargate saying sometimes when I see some of those guys making those shots, I conspire that the NBA has their rims and balls magnetized. Yeah, I thought about this too. I thought about this especially in one of the games where nothing for us could go in, that they had like fans blowing it out or like air pushing in certain ways to make it not come in. Yeah, I've thought about that too. That's really deep conspiracy theory stuff, and it's probably not true. But it's interesting to kind of think about, is that possible? That they could do things manipulative with the rims to make it harder for some teams to make shots and easier for some teams to make shots? Technology is so good these days. I'll bet you there is this kind of technology on the down low, and nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. Let's see. Scotty is figuring out his own offense. BI doesn't have to unlock him. This is the right series for BI and the best for Scotty. Okay, you can play Yaka, but it should be for 3-minute stints off the bench. Yeah, I mean, I like to think, even though it seems like Allen's absolutely outplaying him, that's not actually true. What happened in the first game was they were out of position and not playing them correctly in adjustment to what the Cavs were showing on offense. And well, if they know what they're going to do, Yak can guard Allen right. He's done it many, many times over his NBA career in different ways, whether it was on the Nets, whether it was on the Cavs. So it's like the people saying that Yak can't guard Jared Allen are wrong. It's just that we didn't control the pick and roll correctly and the way we're supposed to guard it in game one, W Stream, W Fam. Thank you, Fiercely, from my cutoff. And most saying turnover woes. Yeah, very bad. Very, very bad. All right, let me go through my tabs and we'll start wrapping up real quick because, we could talk about this all day, but what's the point? We've seen what happened. We've kind of gone over it. Let's see. All right, here we go. This is the breaking news on Blue Skies. Josh Lundberg an hour ago put this up. Respect to Ingram's coach and teammates for backing him up after a tough game. But the whole he got good looks, they just didn't fall thing, or campaigning for him to get calls, I have a hard time getting there. Didn't play with nearly enough force or urgency to warrant that. I don't stand with Josh Lundberg on his quote here. I'm with him. We can try and baby and poo-poo and be nice to Brandon, but we need to be honest. He's not fucking doing what he's supposed to do. We need to be honest here. I like that the team and the coach are supporting him and doing that publicly. That's the right action because you don't want extracurricular circus of controversy for stupid shit. So it's the right action. But I get why Lewinberg's also saying, yeah, this is horse crap. Yeah, you can say you got good shots. He just didn't go in. No, listen, he's the kind of level that has to have that excellence like Harden and Mitchell, that he should be executing just like they are. And I agree with Josh Lundberg on this. I agree with him wholeheartedly on this right here. Let me see. Is there any other breaking news that I missed? No, that looks like it from Blue Skies right there. We're going to say a happy birthday to the past first original Raptors coach in our history, Brendan Malone, the father of Mike Malone. It's his birthday today. Of course, he passed away 2 years ago in 2023. Brendan Malone would have been 91 today. But yeah, we want to honor the memory of the original Raptors coach, Brendan Malone, the first-year coach and the one-year coach for the Toronto Raptors. He was a two-time champion in the NBA as an assistant coach for the Detroit Pistons under Chuck Daly. And, he's an important part of the Raptors' history as our first ever coach. So in the memory of Coach Malone, we say happy birthday to you on your birthday. In the memory of you. Yeah, that's our birthday for today is Coach Malone. Let me see. What else do I got on the tabs? Oh, I guess it's time for the classic card. So let's get into that right now. Let's see if we can get a good classic card today. Of course, John Turner was the classic card yesterday, and Smooth got it. So let's see which classic card we get today. Ooh, this is a good one. And I hope that you guys will know this right away because you should, honestly. This is important. Of course, we just had a great Oscar Schmidt pass away in the last week, and that was very sad. And it's very nice and heartwarming to see all the tributes out for Oscar. Apparently, Larry Bird is very, very glowing tribute to him and saw him as one of his most contemporary adversaries in his career. And honestly, I was so happy to see how much Oscar Schmidt meant to Kobe Bryant. That Kobe Bryant looked up to Oscar a lot, and he was one of his huge influences for who he was and his Mamba mentality. So, yeah, we got to remember Oscar Schmidt, and here is the classic card of the day. Yeah, this one should be very, very easy, guys. If you don't get this one right away, I'm going to be disappointed in you guys because y'all should know who this is. And it's a rookie card, as you can see. So, in some ways, this card is valuable. It's very, very valuable, especially in Europe. There's people over there would love to have this card. So let me see. Did you guys write anything in? Sometimes it doesn't go all the way to the bottom, and it won't show me what the latest thing is. But y'all need to get this right away. Seriously. The classic card of the day. Who is this? It's his rookie card, and he's on the Blazers. You guys should know who this is right away. Come on. Where's my old heads? Where's my classic card aficionados? Where are the Raptor freaks that know? Because they were around then. Yeah, there you go. Stargate got it. That's right. He didn't spell it exactly right, but that's okay. Drazen Petrovic, of course, was a young star in the NBA. He was on the Nets at the time, and he was speeding on the Autobahn in Germany, and his life was cut short very early on when he was young, and it's kind of a sad story in some ways. But Drazen Petrovic is the classic card of the day, and we're very, very proud of him. He's an awesome story. Amazing, amazing player. And it's just really sad that his life was cut short so early because he could have been really something else. Stargate gets it, and we'll give you 100 points for it. 100 points for the classic card of the day today. All right, we're getting close to the end here. G's saying, let's remember, Pascal had some terrible playoff games until he didn't. Yeah, and they're the same age, and they're from the same draft pick. And Brandon got drafted higher than Pascal. And yeah, in some ways, this is the whole testament about teams playing in the NBA and never making the playoffs. If you can be on a team that makes the playoffs, of course you can get playoff experience. But what do you do when you're stuck on a team that's perennially out of the playoffs and doesn't make it every year? How do you go about improving yourself and knowing that you're ready for the highest level of play? That's what I'm asking Brandon. In some ways, your habits and the way you do things really do become who you are. Fred talked about this with the guys on Out the Mud. He said that when he got to the Raptors practice facility, he thought he was getting there early. But Kyle Lowry was already on the table getting a massage after already being there for like 3 hours in the morning. And Fred realized at that point, he's like, whoa, Kyle's already here. Man, you know what? I'm going to be like him. And Fred had older brothers, so he was always used to being a little brother. So he put that little brother energy around Kyle, and he said, I'm just going to tether myself to Kyle Lowry around the Raptors from now on. And I'm going to be his little bro. And I'm going to listen to him, and I'm going to do everything as he does. He said that DeMar was a late night guy. That DeMar was doing all of his shooting after the game, late at night, in the middle of the night. And Fred didn't want to do that. He wanted to be a morning guy. So Kyle was the morning guy. And Kyle would be down at OVO Center or wherever we practiced at like 5 a.m. in the morning. So Fred started joining him. And in some ways, that's another reason how Fred got to be so good is not just Masai with the carrot in front of him, but also working alongside Kyle Lowry, the GOAT, and seeing how he did things and how dedicated he was and how much it took for what he did to do what he did to become who he was. And that grind and that kind of stuff is important. In some ways, you got to do it in vain because you're never guaranteed you'll get that championship spot or chance. You know what I'm saying? So you got to practice a certain way, even blindly, without knowing the playoffs, without knowing the increase of the intensity of the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA playoff finals. You've got to know what that is inherently, or play or practice to a certain standard so that you're going to be prepared no matter what. And that's the secret with guys like Siakam and Lowry, that these guys put in so much work and it's just part of their habits. So I wonder, Brandon, what are your fucking habits, bro? And seriously, I'm not going to say that you don't put gym time in. I'm not going to say that you don't put shots up, because I know you do that. But there's habits, there's lifestyle habits that the absolute best follow to be who they are. And Siakam knows it, and Lowry knows it, and Fred VanVleet learned it from Lowry. So that's what you got to question for yourself is, can you do more? Can you get to a higher level? Is it too late? Are your habits your habits? And this is just who it is? I don't know. Either way, you have a lot to prove, Brandon Ingram. And this is your chance. And you still have time. It's just that you have a lot to prove. And if a poor game last night isn't enough to kick you in the ass, to come back for game 3 and dominate and show everybody, nah, fuck this. This is who I am. Because you moved like that after criticism from the Pelicans game in New Orleans. You moved a little different, I'm going to say. You did. You moved a little different. You had more intention. You had more want. You had more urgency. You had more execution. You got it done better. That's what I'm saying. What's your motivation, Brandon? That's what you have to search your soul right now. Is the motivation the haters and the people saying shit about you right now? Is the motivation for yourself and trying to get accolades and championships and doing things in a winning way to get winning for your team? That's what you got to search your soul for over the next couple of days before you take the court again in Scotiabank Arena on Thursday. Is who are you going to be, and what's the story you're going to write? Because the story you're writing right now is not benefiting you. Let's just put it that way. And you want to benefit yourself, right? So you need to go do it. And there's no excuses. We can't blame shot attempts. We can't blame screening. We can't blame coach or teammates. You got to blame yourself at some point. And you got to go do it, man. I know you can. Listen, I'm not going to be a fool and write you off. Sure, I may talk about a proposed draft, a proposed trade, but that doesn't mean I want to do it. And there's still time. And I like you, man. And I think you and your dad are awesome people. I want you to be successful. But also at the same time, what are we doing here? It's the NBA. And what are we doing here? And what is the purpose of what we're doing here? That's what you got to ask yourself. That's what you got to ask yourself. All right, y'all. I appreciate everybody being here with me on the Raptor Freak stream this morning. The Raptors lost, but you know what? It was a better attempt. And honestly, they could have won it. And I'm honestly not that scared of the Cavs. I think the Cavs are very lucky that they've got a young core of the Raptors playing against them right now. And we could have easily been up 2-0 at this point if we had been practicing more correctly quality basketball in the second half of the season. But we are what we are. We're a young core and we're learning. And that's what it is. Yeah, Stargate saying, to be honest with you, I had concerns about Brandon's seriousness about basketball when he started dating Glorilla. I usually question these athletes' seriousness when I see them dating celebrities. There's nothing wrong with him doing that. And honestly, she could be actually very good for him in this situation. I don't think she's part of the problem. I don't think that's it. In fact, she may actually really help him by giving him a distraction away from it at times, and also being encouraging and supportive towards him. You know, I get why you would think that, but let's not blame her. I don't think she has anything to do with it. I think it has, like I said earlier, it may have more to do that he played too long in New Orleans, and bad habits and bad mentalities have sunk in, and it's hard to shake them. You've got to understand, Brandon, you're not a Pelican anymore. You're a Raptor. And that is something totally different as far as how you need to carry yourself and how you need to go about your professional life. You're not a Pelican anymore. You're a Raptor. And that means a higher level of standards. That's what I'm saying. That's just how it is. That's why when somebody talks about cultures in this league, they brought us up now. They bring us up. There's something about the Raptors. There's a culture there, just like in Miami, just like in Boston, just like in San Antonio. And you have to uphold that and respect that yourself, Brandon Ingram, as the number one scoring priority on our team. You have to understand that. You have to line up with that. You have to jive with that. That you're a Raptor, bro. And these are Masai's Raptors. This is a culture and a place that Masai Ujiri built. And you have to be with the standard of cutthroat and competitiveness that Masai brought with his energy when he was in charge. That's just how it is. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching the Raptor Freak reaction stream today. 3 hours Lexathon. I want to remind everybody once again, our WNBA fantasy draft will be on Saturday morning show at 9:45. So everybody who has a team, please show up so that we have the draft with people actually picking. Yeah. Stargate saying the New Orleans theory is more feasible. I agree. Yeah, it's just that if you're somewhere so long, you can get bad habits and it's hard to shake them. It's hard to shake them. You know what I'm saying? But CJ McCollum played a long part of his career with Dame Lillard in Portland, and he's been slumming with some bad teams in the last couple of years, but he's back in the playoffs now. It seems that he hasn't forgotten how to try and do things in the playoffs to try and win from his years on the Trailblazers. So, that's what you got to do, Brandon. I know your playoff experience is scant, but, you got to start somewhere. And you know what? You should do this for yourself. Forget about me. Forget about the Raptors fans. Forget about the Raptors. Forget about your coach. Do it for yourself, Brandon. You've worked so hard your whole entire life to be at this point 28 years old. Then why would you not take advantage of this opportunity to the fullest extent? You owe it to yourself, man. You put in so much time and so much work and injury and everything. You owe it to yourself, Brandon Ingram, to be the best version of yourself. Forget about all the rest of us. Show us haters we're wrong. Come out and kick so much ass in game 3 that it wipes our complete memory of the first 2 games. Seriously, that's what it is right there. All right. Chloe saying, what's good is that BI can redeem himself with these games. That's right. That's what I just said. That's right. Yeah. Let's see. All right. I'm going to get out of here. All right. Thanks for watching me. I'll see y'all tomorrow. We're going to do a Wow Wednesday. I might do a more tempo-focused stream tomorrow just to have balance, especially with their stuff coming up so fast, and we have 2 days off. So either way, I'll be back 9:30 tomorrow morning. Let's go Tempo. Let's go Canada. Let's go CBL. Let's go Raptors 905. And let's go Toronto Raptors. The series is not over yet. There's a lot more basketball to be played. Watch. Yeah, let's go Raptors. Let's get the first one at Scotiabank on Thursday.